Hello and welcome everybody to the newest installment in Alice Baker, the incredible adventures of the unthinkable Alice Baker, Alice in Egypt. Today is called Up the Nile. But before we start, we would like to give a shout out to our newest patron, Dungeon Scroll, who we're very happy to have on board. And he has specifically stated that he is enjoying our Alice sessions extremely. And so thank you very much for your support. And we're really happy that you're enjoying these little one-to-ones that we're having. And hopefully this one is for you as well.
We will try to keep it interesting.
Yeah. And not to die too often. Okay, so
I can't promise that.
No, I was just listening back to one of the earliest ones where you died in the third session. It is the day after you kind of solved the issue with the missing books in Clarice Thompson's house. And you have made a couple of plans. So the biggest thing is that in 9 days' time, you will be setting out quite early in the morning from your hotel, and you're going to go on a trip up the Nile. So basically this is done on a boat, and there will be somebody who will be looking after you. There will be a guide. In this case, it's actually Lady Jane Carmichael herself. And basically how these trips work is you stay on the barge all day and all night, but then, sorry, not all day. You go to a place, let's say Luxor. In Luxor you actually spend 2 days because it's huge. There's also Karnak there and the city of Luxor itself. And then you spend the night always on the barge, and at night the barge also travels. So you basically make a leisurely trip up the Nile, then the barge turns back, and the trip back is of course a lot quicker because you don't stop. And then the option that you also have is to be dropped off on your way back in Tel El Amarna, where basically Akhenaton, the city founded by Akhenaten, was situated in the very distant past, because you have been invited by Peter Frampton and his crew, his digging crew, to spend a couple of days there, which I believe you guys wanted to do. And then you would be spending about 3 to 4 days there, and then you would be picked up by the next barge that makes the trip southward. So you've also booked passage on this one. And it is now the morning. Your alarm clock rings. It's your turn again to make breakfast.
I will get up and I will give myself another try on the lovely mocha and see how it goes. That is a 13. It is a good one.
Oh, very good. Ticket, because you have leveled up since then, so you get to ticket.
Cooking.
Yeah.
Now we have cooking.
Excellent. So Dottie is woken as well by you. She comes out, she goes into the bathroom, and she also then goes back. Basically, she dresses, and she has 2 envelopes, addressed envelopes, that she puts on a little table that's set beside the door. So basically you put your key there and stuff, so it's like, and then the 2 of you have breakfast, and then there is a knock on the door.
Alice will try to be quicker than Dottie to get up and go towards the door. I'm not sure if it's working.
Dottie won't contest this.
Okay. So Alice will open the door and just peek who is at the door.
It's actually a porter, and he delivers a little envelope to you and says a message for Ms. Baker, and he hands it to you.
Well, thank you very much. I will give him a little tip and will return to my place with the envelope. Any sign outside from who it is? Probably not. So
well, it's actually on stationery. So it's stationery from the hotel. Okay. So probably somebody left a message downstairs.
Okay, then I will just open and see what is inside.
Dearest Alice, I'm back from Alexandria with a crate of the best wine ever. When would you like to open a bottle or 3? How about tomorrow evening? I'll make it easier for you. The day after tomorrow for dinner. Pamela, RSVP.
Okay, how many days do we have until we leave?
You're leaving on the 9th day, so it's still over a week.
Okay. Yeah, then clearly, I will walk over to the desk. I'm quite sure they will have stationery in the suites as well. Just writing a short note. I would love that to see you again before we go on our Nile trip. And dinner then. Her idea was to do dinner the next day, right?
So basically, let's say today is Monday, so it would be the Wednesday, because you're only getting it today. So this morning, so she kind of is giving you an option to kind of like plan 2 days ahead.
Then I would write her back. We can do it either tomorrow or the day after. Both is totally fine for me. And then I would probably, when we go down and out, or I would give it then at the reception to hand it over to her when she's back.
Okay. So Dottie has written 2 letters, which she's also taking downstairs to be posted.
Then I would ask her if she could just take the note for Pamela as well and give it to the receptionist.
Okay. And then she comes back and, so basically you now can do whatever you like.
I think, I'm still not sure. I have never written a postcard back home, did I?
You were going to, well, she got you 2 postcards.
But I never wrote them, so Alice would have sent it down by now, and she would have written at least 1 postcard for her mother and father, with greetings from Egypt, and that everything is lovely and wonderful. Quite warm, but still lovely and wonderful. And I think that would be it. So Mom and Dad are getting a note, because Alice knows if not, she doesn't need to return home.
No, especially since Dottie will not let you get away without writing.
Yeah,
because she had actually bought them for you. So stamps.
So that for sure. The other one she will keep. Maybe something comes up, or maybe she will write later a second card to her parents. We will see.
Dottie looks at this and she says, you do know that this isn't like they're going to run out of postcards. You can write more, and then there will still be some left that you can buy.
I don't,
because she has been writing copious letters. She's written a postcard. She's written a letter to Teresa, which you also co-signed. She's written to Sinead.
Yeah, I would have given like greetings as well. Alice doesn't really have anyone she would write a postcard to, I think. She has a lot of friends, but not that close that she would write postcards to them, I think. So,
okay,
it's Mom and Dad.
Okay, essentially then you were going to do some shopping, things that you wanted to take with you on the trip?
Yeah, exactly, just to see that we have everything. Maybe also another nice scarf that you could have around in the evenings where it's getting a little bit cooler. And she would also spend a bit more time reading through and trying to learn some ancient Greek and go through that book just to try to learn at least a few of the basics. That book will definitely go into a travel bag. She would use it and go through it then during traveling as well. She would see if she could get 1 or 2 more things for her camera, because she definitely has a camera with her. So some film. And I think that's generally all at the moment. She would not have anything else really big on the list to do. She would just like to enjoy the city for the last days that they're here before they leave.
Okay, so essentially you have all of this ready. Pamela gets back to you, so in 2 days time you are invited and are joining her for dinner. Dottie is taking the opportunity to spend the evening elsewhere.
Okay.
And then the evening rolls around. You go over to Pamela Baxter Strauss's suite, as it were. Knock on the door. She opens the door. She lets you in. She has ordered food. Obviously, she doesn't cook herself. And there is wine, red or white. And she says, "So, how have you been keeping?"
Quite well. We are planning to go on a Nile trip in like 5 days, 6 days, 7 days.
That's
7 days.
Perfect.
And
Brilliant.
The lead in all of this will be Lady Jane. So I think it will be quite interesting to see what she can tell us.
Well, you're in for a treat. She is very knowledgeable. I mean, she is a member of the Egyptian Society and a professor there, so it will be a very interesting trip.
I think for
I'm
sure.
absolutely sure.
And Dottie and her are like this, so it will be very interesting.
Oh yeah, I was talking to Jane earlier. Dottie's seeing her tonight. As far as I understand, the two of them are having dinner, and then they're going to go on a night trip to the desert. Very interesting. I'm pretty sure she will be able to tell you quite a lot of intriguing things.
I don't think so, because she does not really share things like that. She is just as mysterious as I am, as it seems, but that's her thing to
Maybe
do.
you should ask her.
I don't want to intrigue. If she doesn't want to talk about it, I will not push for it.
Is there something wrong between the two of you?
No, I'm just well used to being too nosy, and I'm trying to dial back from that, especially in the realms of my friends.
She takes a sip from her wine and she says, "You just need to be careful that this doesn't look like you're pulling back and you're losing interest."
Okay. I will try. I will try. Also, Candace. Oh God, my name. Clarice. Thank you. Not Can. It sounded wrong. Clarice, and maybe she would love to have a visit from you and have a little bit of cheering up. And don't talk
She
about
doesn't
me.
even need to roll a psychology. Your face is an open book. Why?
We kind of crashed and burned a little bit, so I'm not the favorite person in the world to have.
What did you do? I mean, I hope you don't mind me asking, but I mean, what is wrong with you? You're very different today.
I just wanted to give you the updates, what you missed out, and it seems like I misread what she wanted, or not wanted. So, but job done. That's the most thing. We clarified what is happening with the books.
She sets down her glass and she looks at you and she says, "Okay, now you need to tell me what really happened because I've never seen you this insecure when you're talking about your relationships to other people. Least of all, Dottie. And whatever happened between you and Clarice? I mean, what could you have done? Did you burn the library by accident?"
No, God, no. I declined lunch and told her that it would be better to talk first before eating something. And that seemed to be quite offensive to some people. That is a mean way to point it out. It was just a lot of misunderstandings and a lot of coping differently with quite tense situations.
And neither of you apologized to the other.
Well, she thanked me for the job and I left. Job done.
She thanked you for the job and you left.
Yes. Honestly, with what I told her, probably she quite sure doesn't want to see me again. I swear to you, I will not do any kind of PI job in Egypt ever again.
I'm very sorry to hear that because I was the one who put the two of you in touch. I feel terrible now.
Don't feel terrible. You didn't. No one knew how it would evolve. And as I said, for me, just a learning. I'm on vacation here, so I will not work. Work is back at home.
And you just think that, because you worked, now your relationship to Clarice is destroyed?
No, as I said, a lot of misunderstandings, heated emotions, and we would just leave it like that.
I'm sorry to hear that.
I'm sorry as well, because I kind of really like her, but we are quite different.
And you don't think that this can be mended?
I honestly decided to go on the trip first, and after a little bit of time passed, see if she's willing to talk or not. It's not that if we see each other on an event that we would murder each other. We would just wish each other a nice day and move on.
Alice, Alice, Alice.
I will just enjoy the trip and seeing other things in Egypt, I think.
All right. And she feels. How much do you drink?
Not much, and I'm quite sure Pamela will register. I will drink what is decent for meals, so like one or maybe 2 glasses, but that would be it. The wine is lovely, my dear. Totally worth to go to Alexandria and pick it up.
How about you take 1 bottle each, a red one and a white one?
I would love to. If you don't need it, then we have a wonderful stash of wine when we get back. Perfect.
Absolutely. So she basically takes out she's got a little diary and a calendar thing, and she says, okay, so when will you be back? And because I want to know, because then I will ensure that I will have something ready for you, and
I would go through. I'm not sure how long was the trip.
It's about 7 days, the trip alone, but plus the 4 days that you will be spending there, so it's about 11 days. So it's about 17 days from now.
Okay, then I would give her that, and I would also tell her that we are going to tell
El Amarna.
Tell El Amarna. And it might be that if it's nice there, it might be that we stay. We'll probably not stay longer because we need to catch the next boat to move on and get back home. But I can send out a message if needed. So
yeah,
I'm really curious to see a digging site, not only on pictures but in real life.
Well, you're going to enjoy it, I'm pretty sure. And so the evening goes on. I mean, how is the evening passing for you? Because you do seem a little bit somber. I mean, OT.
I think Alice is warming up over the evening. She will just talk to Pamela about, I don't know, how Alexandria, what she's seen there, because also Alice and Dottie have not spent much time in Alexandria yet. So also
in Cairo.
Oh, Cairo, sorry.
You have not been to Alexandria. You didn't even make it there because
True.
you went to Port Said by ship, and then you went straight to Cairo.
So basically catching her brain also Alexandria when we go there, what would be a good thing to look at, because that's definitely still on the to-do list. And we're just talking about here and there.
Okay. So then the evening comes to a close and you go back and you go to your room.
Yep.
Okay. So it's now, I would say, probably, I don't know, how long would you have stayed? Past midnight or?
Around midnight, I think I would give a big thank you and a hug to her. We'll have the wine, enjoying it. And we'll go back over to my room, and I would ask Pamela as well if she would like to come over for a dinner the evening before we leave.
All right. Okay. Brilliant. Yes, I'd love that. I'd love
nice. that. Just a little bit of eating, just touch point before we leave, and then Alice would go back. She would store the wine. She would probably grab a book, and she would probably the book of Lady Jane about our 3 dear deities, and she would but go to her bedroom already and get herself ready, would sit in bed, would read a little bit, and then just go to sleep.
Okay, you go to sleep, you wake up. Did you set an alarm clock?
Yes, for breakfast, for sure.
Okay, so when's that?
I think around 7:30ish.
On your holidays?
I think Well, Dottie is someone who really gets up early, so I'm quite sure Alice.
Dottie still hasn't returned though. She's
yeah,
not
but
there.
it's a question what is the general time. Usually she would be in the kitchen around 8, and then Dottie would come out around 8:30 or so when the breakfast is done, I'm quite sure. So that would be the timing. Like 7:30, then you have a few minutes to mull around and then to get up, get yourself ready and go into the kitchen. So that would be it.
Okay, so you set your alarm clock,
Yep.
you wake up the next morning.
Yep.
Potter around, get ready, go into the kitchen. 8:15, the door opens, Dottie walks in.
From which door?
From the front door.
Oh. How does she look?
She looks good.
so not like tired that
No.
Okay. Good morning. You've already been outside?
Well, I haven't been back. I have just come back. I was at Lady Jane's last night.
Oh, that sounds then like you had a lovely evening.
Yeah. And what about you? How was your meeting with Pamela?
We just had a nice time, a little bit of talk. I won 2 lovely bottles of wine that we can pair with food if we want. And Alice would point over where the bottles of wine are. And I invited Pam over for dinner the evening before we leave. And if you don't feel like cooking, we can order something. But if you are happy to cook, we can also do...
Well, I mean, I won't be able to cook during the trip. So yes, I would love to.
And yeah, early sleep for me. Well, early sleep is a lie. I was around midnight back from Pamela as always. We're talking a bit, but so how's Lady Jane doing? She looking forward to getting on the road again, or on the water again, to be literal?
Well, I suppose she's taking. Well, I mean, she does those very, very frequently, and I think it does get old after a while. But this time round, I have a touch screen. And I was removing cat hair from the screen.
Oh no, recording.
Yeah.
But well.
Okay, so it's still recording. So basically she is, but I think she's looking forward to this trip more than the other ones because of the passengers.
Then I'm really curious also to see a little bit more, because I think here we slowly gathered everything that need to be looked at, so it will be interesting to get out. Did she give you any tips what we should look at when we're out there?
You mean on the trip? Yeah. Well, it will be guided by her. So basically, the way this works is you get off, and then there will be a tour that
so they are guiding you
to
completely.
it's and she will actually be no. Okay. I mean, yes, in Luxor there will be time for yourselves because you're going to spend 2 days there, and it's actually a city unto itself. So you can just go there and do all kinds of things. But they make sure that you go to the places, and that she, the guide, or in this case it's her, but whoever the guide is, will actually take you to Karnak. They will take you to the Temple of Luxor. They will basically show you all of the sites and give you the tour and explain to you what it is that you see and why it's important, and so but you saw the leaflet as well, and then so basically you have breakfast, and then we can either jump to the trip, or if you want to do something, or we can do the evening meal with Pamela.
I think it would be jumping to the trip. If nothing really exciting would happen on the dinner, we would have the dinner clearly. I'm sure we will have lovely food because Dottie knows how to cook very, very well. And it would just be chit-chatting. It's more a social call, and also Alice just enjoys having Pamela over, but there's nothing special she needs to talk about or do. So...
Pamela actually has a little envelope which she hands to Dottie. And Dottie takes a look at it and looks at Pamela puzzled, and Pamela says, "Open it and read it whenever." And Dottie just puts it aside.
Alice is biting her tongue. She's curious, but she will not poke into that because it's none of her business.
And then Pamela basically also takes her leave, and then Dottie sits there. She basically clears the table and she says, "Okay, before we go on that trip where we will be spending 7 days on a boat together, I need to know what is going on.
What?
You are so kind of like, what happened to you? Usually you would be asking about my day, you would be asking all kinds of things, and now suddenly nothing seems to matter.
It's
I
not.
just got a mysterious letter and you're not even commenting on it?
I am trying not to snoop around a business that is not my business. I'm quite
Since
pushy if I want to know things, and I know that I'm poking and asking things that are none of my business. You have your life, and not everything in your life is something I need to know about if you don't want to share.
since when? Is this the new Alice?
This is the Alice that tries to not be the nosy one that gets that annoying that other people shut her out.
Have I ever shut you out?
Kind of. At least I got the message from the last month, not here in Egypt, but from the last month, that you need your own space and your own life.
Well, I have my own space. I've got a very nice place that I can share with you and my cat. I have my own life. But you are part of that life.
I just need to find the right amount of curiosity against too much curiosity, I guess.
I see.
Just a lot of people are, I don't know. I'm from time to time I'm getting just the feedback like, back off, lady. And that's what I'm trying to do. I understand too much backing off. I will figure it out. I'm always interested in what you do or experience, as long as I'm not snoopy and it's none of my business.
Okay, so now here's the deal. You have not been snooping around. You have not been overbearing. You know?
Good.
It's fine. And if I gave you the feeling that you had, I'm sorry.
Well, I can be quite annoying.
Yes, you can be quite annoying, but that's different, Alice. That's completely different. So shall we open this letter? It's from Clarice.
Okay. Alice
She
does
sits down.
not look relaxed. She will sit down, not next to Dottie, but on the opposite side to her, and will just wait. And she's nervous. Obviously nervous. She's not hiding it.
Okay, so she opens the letter. She reads it silently. And then she says, well, this is an answer to the letter that I wrote to Clarice. She would very much welcome us for a dinner. And she would be happy if you could make it, but she understands if you won't.
Well, if she's happy to have me there, yes, I will show up.
Well, let me tell you something. You said to me that you think she doesn't, she has so many friends. She doesn't need us in her life. And that may well be true. But what you also need to understand is I don't have many friends. I may need her in my life.
I understand.
You see, in New York, I know lots of people, but I know them through you.
Yeah.
And they will always know me as the maid, regardless of what our arrangement is now. This will never change. I think the only person that will ever be able to look past this is Pamela. But Pamela is completely out there. I mean, she has,
Yeah.
I don't even think that she is from this century. She may be from the next.
She's definitely from the future. I'm quite sure. She must be some kind of time traveler.
I honestly think that she's completely forgotten that the first time she met me, I was your maid. I think she has completely blanked on this. She doesn't care. For everyone else, this will never be different. You see,
I understand. Especially the people that we already know. If we meet new people, that might be different, but yeah, I get what you mean.
And I really like Clarice. I really, really do. And I think she's an interesting person. She has a very interesting history. I mean, imagine she grew up in India. Just imagine what she would be able to tell me if I just got the chance to talk to her. And to me, Egypt is also a way of meeting people that don't know me as Dorothy Geraldine Williams, Upper East Side, with 6 brothers and sisters, and who left school at 14.
They know you as a brilliant woman that is in the PI business and is quite smart. And a very good cook.
Well, no one has actually tasted it besides Pamela, but that may be changing. But you see, for me, this is important, and I still. What happened with Clarice and you actually hurt me, because I think you were just basically talking completely different languages when this was all going down, and I think let me finish.
No.
Nobody really. It shouldn't have happened. It did happen, but I really felt your pain as well as hers, and it was terrible.
I am with you that we were on completely different pages in different languages, probably in a complete different scenario at that time. So I'm happy to join dinner with her, for sure. So after we come back then from our trip?
There is a huge smile on Dottie's face, one that you remember from before the events, that she's genuinely deeply pleased with what you've just said.
Because I like her. She's really interesting. I totally get that. Even though we're handling certain situations quite differently, but that doesn't mean she's a bad person. She's still quite interesting. And she knows a lot of people and a lot of things. So.
And you're not a bad person either.
Sometimes.
Okay, so you're sitting opposite her.
Yes.
So she gets up, she walks around, and she gives you a big hug, something that she doesn't usually do.
No.
And she says,
Alice will hug her back. And sometimes you need to be a bad person, honestly.
yeah, but it's different being bad outwardly or thinking that you're bad. You can be tough.
I can be also really bad. My mom would sign that without a blink of an eye.
As you say that, she pulls back and looks you in the eyes, and she says, your mother
is a handful in a different way.
One day, and this is what I swear to you, I will sit her down and I will give her a piece of my mind.
You don't have to. This is set in stone as it is. We will have this relationship until whoever dies first.
That's not the point. The point is what she's done to you, and I will never forgive her for that. And with that, she gets up.
Mm-hmm. The good thing I have my dad.
Have you written them a postcard yet?
Yes.
Very good.
And I will write definitely a second one after we come back, or maybe I'll write some when we're maybe in Luxor. I think we will have enough time and without problems to bring something there and send a postcard from there, which will be, I think, quite a highlight in Mom's repertoire. Also telling her friends like, oh, my daughter is over there, socializing and being on sightseeing tours.
And you can tell her that you have met a member of very old British aristocracy.
Oh, that is true.
The daughter of the late 14th Earl of Bute.
That is something.
Just don't tell her that she's kind of like not your mother's favorite person if she ever were to meet her.
Oh god. Oh, that would be interesting to have both of them meeting up.
Yeah, that's unlike Pamela, who she can treat with a lot of pique, she would not be able to pull this off with Lady Carmichael, because Lady Jane is like
I would vote for
old aristocracy.
I would vote for Lady Jane. I think my mom would need to be careful around her. I don't think someone can stop Lady Jane, but that would be an interesting situation. I would like to sit next to my dad with a cigar and a little bit of whiskey, just watching.
You see, the thing is, the Lady Jane you met at the reception is not really Lady Jane. That's her outside face.
Okay.
In private, she's very different. She's a very, very quiet person.
Then I'm really...
She hardly ever speaks. She's a very good listener.
Then I'm curious to see if we learn more of her inner side. Although on a tour, honestly, probably she will be, again, the entertaining side, because that's the job. But let's see. Let's see. I might, at least in the evening, like to pluck her brain here and there about her book, if it comes up, if the time is there.
I'm pretty sure that it can be arranged that the two of you have some time together and you can talk about the book.
If not, maybe when we're back, worst case, depending on how it goes. I definitely stocked up on camera equipment, so we can take pictures. Clearly not from the boat, but on the boat maybe if we want to. But because during that time, it's still the cameras where you need to sit down and move.
No, actually, I did some research. Kodak brought out the first handheld, kind of like small camera in the 1920s. So we've established that you've got one of those because you also did the pictures underneath the Christmas tree.
That is true.
I was very surprised, but they did have like hand pocket cameras that basically work like this, but you have to move the film with your thumb, but that's still possible. So it didn't have the plates anymore, so that was possible as of the 1920s. Cool. And I'm pretty sure
that would
we established you had one of those and you would have brought it to Egypt, because that's just the thing.
Alice would invest in a thing like that, and she would go with the better it's... I'm quite sure she has an old like stand there with the extra. Absolutely. She has that at home for sure, but this is definitely then the one for travels.
And I would imagine that you would have used the old one with the stand and the chemicals that you can actually mix together to make sure that the light, the flash is... You would use this when you were photographing art, because there you can do a lot of things.
It's still life, anything like that.
And when you took still life pictures.
That for sure.
So basically the evening runs around. You have it was a beautiful evening, and you wake up. It's actually something that you wake up quite early the next morning, because you have breakfast at 5, between 5 and 5:30. 6 o'clock sharp, the bus will take you to the harbor, the Nile port, and then you get on the boat. And it's actually quite a nice. It's a small group, so it's about 10 people, including Lady Jane. And then of course there are some staff. So this is fully catered. It's like a hotel on the Nile. And Lady Jane greets everyone, and basically then she's still. She's got her act a little bit more together than at the reception, so it's not like, oh my god, I have to be there in 5 minutes, I'll just pick the first piece of clothing that is not dirty and not lying on the floor. But it's still, some might call it male fashion, others might call it practical.
I would call it practical for sure. Because I'm wearing trousers, quite sure, when we're on a trip like that.
And she is smoking, and she is basically introducing herself. She doesn't speak about the books or anything that she's written about, but just that she will be the tour guide, and she goes by the name Ms. Carmichael. So you and Dottie only know who she really is. And then you basically cast off, or somebody casts off, and you make your way up the Nile. And so the first thing is, it's really, I would say it's almost like a Studiosusreise. So basically there are times set aside when people who want to can actually join the guide for talks. Like, so for example, there is a talk on the pyramids, which, by the way, you will not be seeing because they are the other way. So basically you are not going towards Giza. But you're going up the Nile. But of course, since this is the seventh wonder of the, was it the seventh wonder of the ancient world, the pyramids of Giza, so there is information on what the pyramids are. So basically that they started out like mastabas that had, like, that had steps rather than the things that we know. And that the person who invented them was Imhotep, and that he was a polymath, and people now say that he invented the hieroglyphs. He also invented the calendar, that at some point he was even worshipped as a god. And and that finally that the pyramids that everybody knows are the last ones to ever be built, because obviously it took them decades to build them, but also that you could see that the form had matured to what it is now. And basically how they are all facing west, because that's where the sun sets, and in their belief it's not the sunrise that is important for the journey to the afterlife, but the sunset. The setting sun is the important part, and that in order to find a place where they would go, a couple of things had to be met. So a free view of the west. Number two, it had to be close to the river, because that's where they shipped in all of the raw materials. And thirdly, and this is something that I personally found very interesting, they had to find ground that was solid enough to bear the burden of these huge huge structures.
About that part, but yeah, it makes sense that
Yeah,
that is
it
important
does.
as well.
And so they had to find something that was pretty much made of solid rock that they could
Because you
place them
can't
on.
place it on sand, this will not
Yeah.
work. And if you're getting too close to the water, it's also not working.
Yeah, it's gonna flood. Yeah. And so and basically this is explained, but also, for example, how the Sphinx is more like an afterthought, because the Sphinx, him or herself, depending on how you view it, is actually not a statue. Well, it is, but it used to be the quarry from which they broke the stone to build some parts of the pyramid. And then when they were finished, they basically took the quarry and chiseled the Sphinx from it.
Interesting.
And so you learn these kinds of things. So I would say that, again, for somebody who has done as much research as you have, some of this you already know,
But there are
and maybe
new
lots of it.
things in between, for
But
sure.
it's also what you do learn about Lady Jane is she is an entertainer. She can make this sound interesting. She can make it sound entertaining, but she has the background knowledge that lends credence and depth to what she's saying, if you know what I mean. And then, for example, also that when you go inside a pyramid, the way you walk into it, because all pyramids can be walked into. And that, yes, the idea was to kind of make sure that nobody steals the sarcophagus and the mummy, because that is very important. But the way you enter and go into the final resting chamber of the person who's buried there symbolizes the journey that the soul takes on its way to the afterlife. So you basically walk across a dark chasm, because that's what the soul does in their religious beliefs. And so and she explains all of this very well. And then she also talks about how there are many areas where they mummified animals, so especially cats, but also cows, because there is the goddess Hathor is the goddess with the cow's ears, and in some of her sacred buildings it is believed, although they have never been found, but there is inscriptions and descriptions that they had mummified cows underneath her temple. And so it's all very interesting if you are into this kind of thing. Dottie is taking this as a way of broadening her horizon.
Yeah, Alice will enjoy every second of it, even if she doesn't. If she already knows it, but I'm quite sure she will also in between ask quite a few questions about more details here and there, and just trying to feed off it. If Dottie is not quicker in asking the question, but I'm quite sure we are keeping Miss or Mrs. Carmichael.
She is. She will never be Mrs. because she will not marry.
Miss Carmichael, which is fun to say. We keep her on her toes that she gets questions here and there.
And then you basically approach Luxor, which is called the City of Palaces, or the City of the Thousand Gates. It is a bustling city. It's got many bazaars. This is also where you have a day to yourselves before you go on to visit the relevant temples. It is also famous for its Nilometer, because it's got a, well, whatever pegel is in English, where they basically measure the level of the Nile.
Yeah, I think it's a level.
Yeah.
The water level, to be precise.
The water level, yeah, to be precise, exactly. And basically Dottie, is dying to go to one of the bazaars. Do you indulge her?
For sure, because Ella wants to see if she can find a small thing for herself, maybe a small thing for Pamela,
Mhm,
and just to see what she can find, or maybe even for mother or father, for her dad maybe, because at the moment she only bought stuff for her mother. I think she will have a
mhm,
look around if she can have
mhm,
find anything for her father, like
mhm,
I
mhm.
don't know, anything to smoke or
Yeah, water pipe maybe.
water pipe might be a nice thing, or any kind of box where you can put tobacco in there or something like that.
Okay, so now, yeah, rosewood boxes are something that you can get here as well. So essentially, what you find out is because Lady Jane also basically everybody's given a map
Mm-hmm.
of Luxor, and basically there are some things that are drawn in, and they also point out that this is the house where George, or probably Georges Le Grain, lived. He was an archaeologist who was basically a conservator
Mm-hmm.
for the British Crown, and he oversaw quite a lot of excavations around Luxor and Karnak. But he's also a famous artist, and he painted lots and lots and lots of landscapes, really beautiful paintings. And his paintings can be found everywhere throughout Luxor, and you can also buy them. So not the originals, but you can buy. Well, I suppose they're copies then,
Yep.
but it's known. It's not, somebody's not trying to tell you this is a falsified or forged version, but you know they are copies.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Dottie sees one of them, and it's a cityscape of Luxor, with like the setting sun, and behind it you can actually see the temple. And she basically says, "I know that you find this is tacky, but I really love it, and I'm gonna get one." And she buys a copy of those.
It's beautifully painted. I'm quite sure Alice can at least admire that just from handiwork. It's
Hmm.
painted very well, and it's a nice
Yeah,
motif. So
yeah. And what you notice, oh yes, because you have art
yeah.
and stuff. Um, you would say it's from the type of painting, it's realism.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really, like it's almost like a
Yep.
photograph. So he really wanted, and there the archaeologist comes through, because as an archaeologist, when you draw stuff, you're not allowed to add or subtract. You
To
have
keep
to
it
show
real.
what's
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
and to keep it real, because quite often you will be the only one who will ever record it, because sometimes the sites are then covered up again because you don't want the elements to destroy everything, and you are the only one, or back then, that has cast an eye on those. And then
I'm quite sure
um
people like those have also quite an eye for detail and quite
yeah,
quickly for that because they need to just put
yeah.
everything together.
And so there are I don't know how to say this, but there are things that are painted, so watercolor, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe, I don't know, in I don't know, Ölfarben, whatever that is.
Oh yeah.
Oil paint?
Mm-hmm.
Is that oil?
Yep.
But then he also made sketches, like the ones that like it's important to do it quickly because,
Alice for sure would get one or two sketches because that is
mhm,
something that she really admires, and to
mhm,
see basically the groundwork behind.
mhm,
Because especially oil, you can paint over and over and over until you have it right. Watercolor is tricky, but she really enjoys just the drawing.
mhm. So you walk away with a couple of sketches, and Dottie has a really lovely sunset scape with the temple of Amun of Luxor in the back. And yeah, and you spend a really lovely day there. Again, people are trying to sell you stuff. People are, like there are also, of course, people who sell tea, Turkish delight, foodstuffs.
I think if a little bit of Turkish delight we would definitely grab because it's holding up for 1 2 days. So you can have that, and Alice would for sure look for like really a wooden box where her father could store tobacco or something like that in there with maybe like a scarab on top.
Oh yes.
Just something that's not too much, but a little bit extra.
Yeah.
And that
Um,
would be her big point to buy.
what I would say is that they would probably have a rosewood box that has a scarab inlay rather than on top.
Yeah, inlay is
because
fine.
that would look strange.
Yeah, that would be
but
in
it would
inlay.
be,
Yeah,
yeah.
that would be perfect.
And yeah, you find that, no problem. Having said this, you again are able to judge this. The really good stuff isn't cheap.
Alice is suspecting so. I'm also quite sure Alice would look if she can find maybe a nice piece of jewelry for herself, like a necklace with maybe even also a scarab, just to stay with it, because it's making a nice like decorative element.
Yeah. They actually have those made out of green jade.
Yeah, perfect. That would be something she would definitely get for herself. And Alice planned in some money for shopping, and she would rather buy not as much, but then basically
The good stuff, and then pay a little more. Yeah. Okay. So, and then of course, then the next day, it's really the Temple of Amun in Luxor. It's almost as old as Karnak, but was first built in the 12th dynasty. And like so many of these temple complexes and structures, they would have been added to over the centuries. So to this one, Tutankhamun, but also Ramses II added and polished the structure. But even Alexander the Great made changes to the temple's layout. So it was even Alexander and the Ptolemies who came in and then still worked on these Egyptian temples. Karnak itself is more than just a temple. It's really famous for its ram-headed sphinxes. So there are over 300 of these. And here you can see, and this is also being pointed out, that we would call it vandalism, that a lot of the hieroglyphic inscriptions on those columns have been hammered out and chiseled away at. And this is not modern. It's actually pharaohs trying to get rid of information and the boasting of their predecessors, and just basically getting away, removing this information. So basically they would have obliterated whatever the hated predecessor had written there, and then just basically come up with their own stuff. The main god in Karnak as well as Luxor is Amun. And of course, the person whose city you will be visiting, Akhenaton, who used to be called Amun, came up with this new idea of just worshipping the one god, namely the sun disk Aton. And he then basically closed all of the temples at Luxor and Karnak and built his own temple to Aton.
Okay.
But once Akhenaten was dead, and he only lasted really like his lifetime, then this temple of his was immediately destroyed and ransacked. So there are no traces, but we know it's there because somebody wrote about it. Interestingly enough, the temple site at Karnak also houses the greatest natural lake of Egypt that is not fed by the Nile, but by the water table directly. And it's called the Sacred Lake of Karnak. And then you basically go up the Nile, you go to Abu Simbel, where Ramesses II built this temple to himself and his favorite wife, Nefertari. And it's actually on the border to the Nubian Empire, because the Egyptians had gone into Nubia and just subjugated that empire. And in order to demonstrate, to demonstrate the might of the pharaoh, they built this huge structure, and it's actually looking into that land. And twice a year, the sun lights the whole chamber, because it's like built into this rock face, I suppose, so that Ramesses II and the 3 other statues that are in there are lit. So 3 of these statues are lit up. Only one statue always remains in darkness, and nobody's really sure why, because nobody really knows what the story is and why they would build it like this. And then basically it's an evening, and so basically you've had dinner on board, and Dottie is sitting down, and she is you've noticed that she has started to keep a journal. She's never done that before. She has a notebook where she writes down stuff that she wants to do, or things where you kind of go, let's investigate this or that. But she's now started to write a journal, and she's sitting there with books, and she's copying from them. And you have noticed And she's a terrible, terrible, terrible craftsperson. She can knit and that kind of thing, but she cannot draw to save her life. She's trying to draw. It's terrible. But I suppose you don't say that.
No, for sure not. So Alice is keeping a journal as well, but it's for her. It's a travel journal. She will not copy stuff from books in there because she has the books. But she will basically make on what we've seen, what was special, maybe a few things that she learned over the trip, and she would definitely draw in between, and it would definitely look a little better than what Dottie is
Yeah.
doing. And but she will not interfere. I think she's in between. She's like, should I draw a few things for her that she can put in? And no, it's her journal. And the other thing, during the trip, Alice will ask Dottie to stop her if she's too snoopy, just to the other participants of the trip. But Alice will be quite curious on who else is on the boat
Mm-hmm.
and try to learn about them and
Mm-hmm.
socialize with them.
Mm-hmm.
And as I said, she just wants to have Dottie there to like kick her if she's like, you are going too far to be curious. You don't need to know what kind of underwear they're wearing. Don't go that
Which is
far.
something that you have never ever asked in
No,
27 sessions.
no. But Alice will be curious just to see who's there, where they're
Yeah.
from, because I'm quite sure no one is from Egypt. All of us will be
No.
travelers from
Yeah.
somewhere.
Most of them are actually British,
Mhm.
and lots of them are really here for the digging season.
Yeah.
It's the thing to do. So you are seeing people who are either wealthy or aristocracy or both.
Oh, everyone aristocratic. The name will be noted in a notebook because that is something
Yeah,
she can throw over to her mom, and her mom can be like,
yeah,
"Really, my daughter is meeting up with important people."
yeah. And then one evening, basically, Dottie is sitting inside,
Mhm.
and it's a lovely evening. And do you still smoke, or have you given up
No,
completely?
no, she's still smoking.
Okay, so
She toned it down maybe a little bit, but she is for sure.
but
She's
I
giving
assume you
up
don't.
alcohol and a lot of drinking. She can't
Mhm.
stop smoking as well.
No,
That's a
no, no,
little
that's fine.
much.
No, it's just because I do know that
Yeah.
you had toned down on it, but I assume you're not smoking in the cabin because that's kind of
No, I would
smallish. Okay.
smoke outside, careful
Hmm.
enough, clearly, that I set nothing on fire, but she would sit outside and for sure
Hmm.
smoke and have a drink. Alice would be outside quite a lot as long as it's not too hot.
Hmm. Yeah, and in the evenings it's actually really
Hmm.
pleasant. So one of these evenings you're basically
Hmm.
outside and smoking, and the sun has set long ago, and the moon is coming up, and you can see and the barge is moving because you're traveling at night as well. And every so often you can hear like a little fish coming
Hmm.
to the surface, like this plop
Hmm.
sound. And as you're standing there, lo and behold, you hear a voice behind you and says, "Well, if it isn't Alice Baker, it's Lady Jane."
Oh, then I
And
would,
she's also smoking.
I would just, well, good evening, Miss Carmichael.
Thank you.
Um, it's a perfect weather to be out and enjoy a little smoke.
Yeah, it's one of my many vices. I think I'll never be able to give it up.
I
Interestingly enough, Dorothy doesn't smoke.
No, she never. I don't think she ever. And good on her, but I'm with you. I'm dialing down on other things, but I'm just not smoking. It's just too enjoyable.
So, how have you been enjoying the trip?
I love it. Although I read quite a bit up front, but still I learned a lot from what you are telling us, and it's always different to read about it and then seeing it.
Yeah.
So my sketchbook is quite filled up.
Oh, you sketch?
I yeah, draw, paint, whatever needed, and I've taken quite a few pictures. I'm quite sure also on board she would have taken a few pictures here and there, and I'm quite sure Miss Carmichael would have been on them if she wanted or not in between while she's explaining the world. And so it's really a nice change, and from far away New York City. with a lot of cars and a lot of noise and a lot of dirt, just to be here and just enjoying.
Yeah, Dorothy doesn't really say much, but she has been kind of indicating that you've had quite a year, the two of you.
We did. She almost died due to
Is that
sickness.
so?
So hospital thankfully saved her.
That's not quite how she explains it. She says that you saved her, but
Well,
I
I
think the
gave
truth may be somewhere in the middle.
well, I gave the money. That I think is the only thing. And you know how it is. If you have the money, the doctors will do whatever they can.
Well, I, for one, am grateful.
In this case, is honestly, I'm really grateful that I don't have to worry about money just to get better when I'm sick. That is really a blessing. And I know I have it just because especially my father worked hard and is coming there, but it's a nice change after all that happened and all the getting back on foot, getting healthy again. I myself had also an accident, so my knee is still not 100% there, but it's nice just to be out. And time to read in peace and quiet. I'm still enjoying your book very much.
Is that so?
There's a lot to learn about these three ladies.
Well, yes, I did spend a lot of my, shall we call it, professional career researching them. And it's all culminated in this book. It's probably the last one that I'll ever write.
I think quite a few things you got really on point.
How do you mean?
Yeah, I just had my own light searching for the right word. Contact, maybe, with the deities, ladies, whatever they are. So it's quite interesting to see how far they are reaching, and that you can find them basically everywhere in each culture.
Now you have me intrigued. What do you mean you have had contact with the deity?
Well, you will call me crazy if I tell you that they are probably real.
Tell me more.
We had kind of a crash in with. Let me see. Which one was it? The oldest one? No, the youngest
No,
one.
the youngest one.
one.
Yep.
With the youngest one of the batch. PI businesses sometimes taking you in weird places.
So what you're saying is you met someone who believes that they are the youngest face of Astarte?
Yes, and I'm quite sure they are. At least it fits all perfectly on point.
So somebody told you that they're a goddess,
Yes.
and they made such a good argument and case for it that you believe that they are a deity.
At least, let's say, something stronger than a normal human, with a lot more capabilities than a normal human.
Such as?
Changing how they look within a snap of a finger. Playing tricks and being quite annoying, which really fits to your description of the younger one.
Yeah, she's a bit mischievous, at least that's how she's described.
She is.
And now you know what Dottie means by she doesn't talk much. She has this very intense look in her eyes, and she just looks at you and she doesn't say a word.
Can Alice roll a psychology? Because she
Please
doesn't. She's really careful now in freaking out people with stuff like that. Although I think Dottie said that she will not be freaked out by that, but still, let's see. Oh no! It's a 99. I cannot read, Miss Carmichael, for the love of God.
She looks really unscrutable. She looks very interested and also very calm.
Well, we had to do a little bit of charms on our house that she is not visiting us anymore. Let's point it like that. She found quite some interest in Dottie and myself.
That I would believe at once, but what was it that piqued her interest?
My stupidity.
What did you do?
I went to church and prayed for the first and last time in my life.
You went to church and prayed.
Yes.
Which church did you go to?
A normal Catholic church.
Oh, and what did you pray for, if I may ask? Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to intrude.
Well, depending on how much we believe in her capabilities, that Dottie will survive the hospital stay, which worked out. But, well, it came with the visits of a certain lady, which got a little bit annoying and out of hand.
You mean she's been visiting Dottie?
I don't think so. I think she's more annoying me than Dottie. At least Dottie never said that she saw her again, or at all. I think I'm the only one who really met her several times and talked to her.
So you said you prayed that Dottie might live?
Yes. Because
So
the doctors, for sure, were not giving me much hope.
Well, I mean, that would fit because of the three, she is the one that deals with birth.
Well, if I would have... No, to be honest, I'm still annoyed by her visit, and I really hope I don't have to see her ever again. But I would still do the
Dorothy
same.
lives.
Yeah, that's. I'm not regretting that part. So honestly, in the end, I would do the same again, even if it happens. Maybe I would change the wording a little bit. Help her,
make
but
it sound
please.
Like something happened afterwards that was more than just her visiting you. What does she look like?
It depends on what she wants to look like. It's quite disturbing to look at your own face.
So she chose to look like you.
And she stole my lipstick. My favorite lipstick. Mischievous, as you said. And I also don't really enjoy having, like, dreams and being kicked out of the dreams in the middle of the night by her visiting. So, but charms seem to work.
She sent you dreams.
Well, she at least visited me while I slept. And she was then just sitting there in my room. So she is...
Does Dorothy know all this?
Yes. But usually I'm quite hesitant to talk about things like that because most people would call now for people and put me in a straitjacket and somewhere else. So, but Dottie mentioned that you would not panic if we ever get to the point to talk about it.
Well, I cannot say that I share your experiences. I certainly have never knowingly met Astarte in any shape or form.
Missed out, I can tell you.
Well, it depends. I mean, I definitely know that you're not the only one who would have prayed to them for life or something else. And there is so much discussion and extant literature from ancient times where people prayed to her and they got what they wanted, that somebody did live, that somebody did give birth. I mean, it would be foolish of me to say that this is not possible because I've always believed, and this is my strong belief, that yes, religion is sometimes used as a crutch, but there is also more between here and there, and she looks up,
There is indeed
than
a lot
we
more
know.
than we know or we want to know, probably.
And so she's been visiting you since then?
Since we installed the charms. Afterwards, I haven't met her again. So maybe she understood that she's not welcome anymore.
Well, you did meet her on the graveyard after you destroyed the egg.
Alice is ignoring that part.
Okay,
But
okay,
yes, I
okay,
know.
yeah. Okay, so OT, you know. Oh, all right. So, I'm just wondering that she would focus on you when the person she brought back was Dottie.
Well, I could not stop myself from being the snarky Alice Baker that I am, so maybe I was quite entertaining for her for a while.
You're entertaining.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Well, I wouldn't know you well enough to pass judgment on that.
I can be quite snarky. And there are people like my mother that find it highly inappropriate, and other people like Pamela Baxter Strauss, for example, who find it quite entertaining. You know,
Yes.
socializing is one thing that I enjoy, but some of the social standards are just last century and need to change, like wearing trousers. And Alice would point to both of them wearing trousers. I still have no idea why people find it so weird. It's quite comfortable.
I'm very practical.
Yes. And it can be quite fashionable depending on which trousers you wear, so. But well, my mother is shocked
Well,
every time I'm out there in trousers.
I find
Men's
it
wear.
interesting how you describe yourself, because I can tell you that I've been listening to Dorothy Williams telling me all about you, and snarky was not one of the adjectives she used.
I think she has quite a different view on me than I. Isn't that always the case? I'm quite sure Dottie has a different view on herself than I have of her as well. Because she's one of the most brilliant people and most heartwarming people I've ever met. And she is so smart.
I think that the two of us can agree on all of these things about Dorothy Geraldine Williams.
And she is the best cook out. Oh, yeah, she's definitely on the top 10 cooks out there.
Well, she hasn't cooked for me yet, so I can't tell you.
One day we need to invite you over for dinner because, as I said, she is. I am
I'll take your word
blessed
for
to
this.
have met her, and I am very blessed that on a regular basis I can enjoy the lovely food she's putting together.
So she's your cook.
Well, she just loves cooking. I am doing breakfast. Not as good as she does, but she just enjoys cooking and baking. So from time to time she takes over and decides to do it herself. Even though, again, social-wise, maybe not the appropriate thing. That's more for staff to do, but if you enjoy it, why not?
Yeah, I always wondered how the two of you met. She's very quiet when it comes to that.
Yeah, it's by just basically my mother brought us together when we were a bit younger.
I see.
And we kind of found that we, again, my brain is tired today with
You
English
complement
word.
each other.
Compliment, thank you. That we complement each other quite well. She's there to kick
you
my
are
butt
lucky.
if I need to, and I'm kicking her butt if she needs it. And at the same time, we are supporting each other as best as we can. And I'm quite sure one day she will be a brewing PI just on her own, or we will be we are already quite a perfect duo, so. But she's catching up on PI investigation stuff so quickly.
Funnily enough, she's never really spoken about that at all. It doesn't seem to be, well, I suppose it's important to her because it is her job, but
We are on
I
vacation
think,
here. I think work is not the priority one here. But if you're ever in New York City and you need a private investigator,
oh, I
give us a
certainly hope
ring.
not.
I hope not, to be honest, but we could. Or if you know someone who needs, for sure. But as I said, it's vacation time here and we are not doing jobs. It's just for us to learn, to entertain, and to relax. Which all of this is
Well,
working perfectly here in Egypt.
the learning part. I have a feeling that I don't know much about her past. Like I said, she's very quiet when it comes to this, and I'm not one to pry. But I have a feeling that sometimes she seems to think that she knows too little.
She always does, which is not true. Well, honestly, I also, some things I don't know. I had to read up and learn about Egypt just as she did. I clearly heard a few things and stories here and there. But she's. I think there's the point about how you see yourself and how others see you. I don't think she sees herself as a very smart person, and she is. And she's learning quickly. Just give her a book, and within days she knows bit by bit of the book. And she really enjoys being here, learning something completely new.
Yeah, she seems to be thriving in this environment.
She does. And I just enjoy seeing her growing and learning new stuff. One day I will need to teach her how to draw. There is definitely room for improvement. But not everyone can be an artist, I guess.
I guess not. Well, you two are very lucky, and I think I'll turn in now because we are going to Dendera tomorrow, and it's going to be quite a climb.
Then have a nice evening. Thank you for the lovely
You too.
chat and the lovely book on giving me some background information.
Anytime. And should you ever meet one of the faces of Astarte again, say hello to her from me.
Are you sure I want to do that?
Well, it's like, imagine I was a Carter, Howard Carter, and somebody said they met Tutankhamun.
Understood. I honestly hope I will never meet them again, but if I do, I will give the greetings.
Thank you. And then she retires. And every so often you actually also see a crocodile or two.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really when they say it looks like there's a log drifting past, that's really what it looks like. And the moon is out. And the Nile is quiet, and you hear the noises of the birds, of the night birds. The thing is, it's hot, and it's always hot in Egypt, although it's now winter. But the Nile is when it's not flooded, it actually flows quite
slowly,
evenly and slowly. So it kind of smells a little bit brackish. And after a while you just retire as well, I suppose.
I think shortly after the talk I would retire, go inside, see if Dottie is still up and awake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is.
And I would share with her. Well, I had a nice chat with Miss Carmichael. I still need to stop myself from saying Lady Jane, but
Did you?
Yes.
What do you think of her?
I like her, for sure. I told her that I've seen one of... And she's pointing to the book. She did not freak out.
Well, I told her she wouldn't. I told you she wouldn't.
If I ever see one of them again, I should give greetings from her. I will do
Yes,
that.
of course you should.
I honestly don't wish on anyone that they get the attention of, but well, I will do that if she wants to. I kind of get why. And it was quite interesting to see.
I told you she's
She's
an interesting person.
very impressed with you.
With me?
Yes.
No.
Oh, yes, dear.
I don't know what you're talking about.
You
So
are learning so quickly, and you're like a sponge to be, but in a nice way, just like taking in everything that you can. And I also invited her over maybe one day for dinner because I also mentioned that you are the perfect cook, and I did not explain why. I just said that we are living out of social standards, so if one of us wants to do cooking, like I do breakfast, you do dinner, and you do it very good.
she doesn't know who I really am.
I am not mentioning that to her. I said that we met when we were younger and my mother brought us together.
Which technically
She
are both true.
did. So I did not lie, but I left out more because honestly, it's none of her business of our past. But I told her that you are basically learning to be a great PI and that you're making amazing steps forward.
Well, I don't know about that. And then she rests her hand on one of her books and she says, when we're back in New York, do you know what I would really like?
What?
I'd like to go to university.
Sure. Easy to do. Pick whatever you like, or a little bit of everything. Dip your toe into things and see what really interests you, that you want to go deeper.
People will know who I am, though. And yes, people can tell where she's from because she has a very strong Upper East Side accent.
Well, we can work on that if you want to.
You see, I think that Yuan said that there was so much more I could do, but I never saw that. But the last year has changed everything.
That is what I like about last year. All the horrible things happening, but that is a good thing. Because you are smart enough to learn anything that you set your mind on. And we can try to do some training about maybe slowing down the little bit of like dialect you have. Although I love it, but I get why you say that people will know where you're from. And cloth-wise, it's easy enough to. You're already on you. We just need to pimp it up with a little scarf or so, and you are perfect notch also in regards to clothing. No one will register where you're coming from. They will only know that you're New York City.
She smiles.
And more on the higher end side of town.
So, you think I should try it?
Yes, for sure. As I said, if you have something special, we can organize to get you in there. Or if you want to snoop around here and there to see, we can spread it out a little.
I would really like to do some kind of like ancient history, like, Egypt, Rome. And I thought I could maybe learn a foreign language.
That is easy enough. Well, the learning is not that easy. That is hard work. But to organize this is easy enough. I love seeing you expand. It's what I love to do as well. It's not that I started knowing everything. I still don't know everything. That would be harsh, but I enjoy stumbling over new things and reading up on it. Like we both learned about Egypt and all what is happening there. Or for me now starting to learn ancient Greek, and she's pulling up the book.
She holds up her ledger, and you can see that she started to copy the ancient Greek alphabet, and she started to write down the sentences from the first couple of chapters. Yeah, I was looking into that. You know what? I feel a lot better now because I didn't know what you were going to say.
I support every single bit of anyone who wants to learn and expand what they can know. And you have everything out there. That's the good thing being in New York City. You can basically learn everything that you want to learn. And you worked hard to have now the freedom to do whatever you like. And you deserve it. Especially after last year. We both deserve it.
We deserve the best.
Yes.
And you as well. And she points, she basically puts her finger on your sternum. You as well. You have
That's
to lighten up.
why we are here.
Yeah, and don't be so self-conscious.
Maybe it's just a phase. Very early midlife crisis. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you are having a crisis.
It has been a year.
But you know that I'm here. You can talk to me.
I totally know that. Vice versa, the same. But yeah, I just processing maybe bit by bit.
Don't make the mistake of trying to process it all again on your own. No, I know that phase.
But that's how you process things.
No, that's not how you process things. That's how Alice Baker processes things.
That's how quite a few people I know process things, but...
Yeah, and does that work for them?
Partly, maybe.
You know, sometimes it's okay to try something different. Look at me. I'm trying new things out.
But it's hard to try new things out like that. It's much easier to learn a new language.
Yeah, because that's your brain.
Yes. Brain is easy to handle.
Yeah, and in the next 80 years, I will keep coming back to the fact that you need to listen to your heart more.
But it's quite useless.
It's not. It's not.
It also has no idea what it's doing.
I think it does.
It's highly illogical and irrational, so...
Of course it is. It's your heart.
Brain is easier to handle. For sure.
You keep telling yourself that, but you don't believe it. I don't believe you a single word.
It's just deciding on which way to go.
Yeah, but do you know what? You just have this black and white thing when it comes to this. It's just one way and never the other. Don't tell me I'm not using my brain, because I am, but I'm also using my heart.
I have no idea how, but you can handle both, and I don't know how. So that is something then I will bit by bit learn from you.
Yes, indeed. But I hear that we have to do a lot of climbing tomorrow to get to the Temple of Isis, so maybe we should turn in.
Yeah, let's get some sleep, and let's see what awaits us tomorrow.
And she really tucks herself in, and
Alice will roll up in bed as well. No more reading, just going to sleep.
And the next morning it is Dendera, and Dendera is famous for its temple of sorry, that's the Hathor Temple, and then there is Philae. And Philae, well, you learn a lot about the Hathor Temple because that was actually expanded by Nero and Caligula. So all of the Roman emperors actually went there, and for some reason decided to expand this particular temple. And it's also quite famous or infamous because Napoleon took a lot of the frescoes from there and brought them back to France. Mm-hmm. And the most famous one is actually a depiction of the animal zodiac, and that has gone forever. I don't know, I didn't research this, but I assume if it's still there, it's probably in the Louvre. And then you make your way to Philae.
And I'm still
And that
listening.
is
I need to close the
really
door.
interesting. That's fine. I can't see you because I'm reading.
Okay.
That is actually really, really interesting because it's an island near Dendera, and this has a huge temple on it. And this one was, or is dedicated to the goddess Isis, who is also one of the ones where it's not clear where she came from. And this cult then spread across the Mediterranean, into Rome, into Greek culture, and it was matriarchal. And it founded the cult of mysteries in Europe, and it basically spread all around the Aegean. And it had a resurgence in the 19th century because people like Helena Blavatsky, the person who founded Theosophy, wrote a book called Isis Unveiled, and she basically founded, well, it's kind of like maybe a cult or a group of people, and they called themselves Daughters of Isis, and they went there at some point on the 1st of May and held a ritual. And basically it is said that Isis appeared to them.
Ooh.
And that she made some declarations and prophecies. We don't know what they were. And she said that she was going to support this group of women, but the only thing that they had to do was they had to have a ritual once a year. And apparently the Daughters of Isis still exist.
Okay.
And they still do this once a year. Not there, but basically somewhere. And you can hear from Lady Carmichael, or Lady Jane rather, that this is the kind of pseudo-religious thing that she doesn't really like, or that she finds strange, because it takes, and it becomes quite clear that she does not believe that they actually saw Isis.
Yeah.
And she basically says it could be that they were basically having a common near religious experience, because they were kind of like, I don't know, maybe drinking something, dancing or something like that, and it was a common vision, like a hallucination.
Yeah.
And of course that Isis, because of her mysteries, which to this day are unknown, we really don't know what this mystery cult entailed. The only thing that we do know is that it was open only to women, and it was very attractive because it was one of the very few religious cults in ancient Greece, in ancient Rome, that allowed women that were married.
Okay.
Because there was only one other cult, that was the cult of the goddess Vesta. And they had to be, basically they became Vestal virgins, and they stayed like that for the rest of their lives. But this was a cult that allowed women to have a life and still become a religious worshipper in their own right. So it was very attractive.
I can see that.
Yeah. And so basically the journey comes to an end. You turn back, you go down the Nile again, and then they drop you off at Tel El Amana, and of course you have been expected. So as you approach, you can already see that there is a car, like one of those really old, back then they had kind of like Jeep types, the original Jeep as it were, although of course it was a different make. And you see a sunburned Peter Frampton welcoming you and saying, Ms. Baker, Ms. Williams, I am so glad to see you. I hope you had a lovely journey. I hear that your guide was Lady Jane. It must have been quite an experience to be guided by one of the most outstanding Egyptologists that we have. I hope you enjoyed it.
It was an absolute delight, and thank you for picking us up. You look...
Oh, of course.
like you had a little bit of sun out there.
Well, yeah, I know. It's there's not enough aloe in the world to make this go away. And he basically takes your bags and he puts them on the car, like it's one of those. It's almost like a truck, so with an open back. And then he says, well, the problem is, as you can see, it's kind of like a little bit small. So one of you will have to get in on the back.
I will
and he basically
sit on the
looks
back,
at
for sure.
and he looks at Dottie, and because he notices, of course, that you have a problem with your knee because that doesn't go away. You're
Yeah,
still limping
Alice
every so.
will not stop on climbing on the back.
And he looks at you and he's like, but madam, but at that moment, Dottie has already climbed up as well. And the two of you are sitting on the back of the truck. And he says, well, then I suppose we're good to go. I mean, I didn't expect it. Like, I mean, there is space for one of you at the front. No?
We will just enjoy the ride. We are on adventure holiday, so this is quite a fun change to being stuck in a car in a city.
All right, then, all right. He's a bit, flustered. I mean, he's a gentleman of, 45, and, he's a bit overwhelmed by two young ladies who make their own decisions. But he gets in the car nonetheless. He doesn't criticize you, maybe inwardly, but not outwardly, and he drives off. And then, but before he leaves, he actually turns around and he opens the window at the back. It's kind of like one of those that you can push to the side. And he says, this is going to take about an hour and a half.
Perfect.
There is some water. There's a canister there, in case you get thirsty, and you can also see that there's kind of like a metal canister.
I think quite sure we would have at least like.
Yeah, you do, but he doesn't know.
Yeah, we are prepared, but thank you nevertheless.
Very good, very good. And then he closes the window again and he drives off. And oh boy, the sun is beating down. But there is wind from the drive, so
we are holding on to our hats. I'm quite sure both of us are wearing
You're
hats.
holding on to your hats. And what you notice, because I mean, what you have to imagine is, yes, it's on the Nile, but Tel El Amarna, the site itself, so there's the Nile, and then it's kind of like a completely flat and empty plain.
Okay.
It's not desert, so it's not, well, there is some sand, but it's not like the desert, but it's more like small stones. So as you drive, those stones start flying, and the air is, as soon as you leave the Nile behind, it gets really dry
and hot.
And there is always sand. There's always dust, not sand. There's dust from the wheels, so it does get, and you very soon realize that you're getting really dirty, because you are sweating, and then of course you get the dust, and so you're kind of like a little bit caked.
I don't think Alice would
dust.
worry much. Not sure how Dottie is handling it, but Alice would not care, because this is adventure time. It's not looking pretty time.
Dottie has matured. Several months ago, last year, she would have started to try and clean you like she did when you were on the train and you got all dirty. But it's a holiday, and she obviously realizes you don't care what you look like, so she doesn't care. And also, she's no longer a lady's maid. She doesn't have to worry about what you look like.
No.
And the thing is, I don't want to say she's not paying any attention to you, because that would sound callous, and that's not who she is. But she's paying a lot more attention to what's going on around her.
Yeah, that's what Alice is always hoped for. That, as you said, she's not the maid. She doesn't have to do all the things a maid needs to do. She just needs to have interest in like a friendship, partnership level, but not in I need to clean your shoes level and keep them clean, because whoever could think that?
Yeah. So she also is looking. I mean, it's blue skies. There isn't a single cloud. In the sky, you can see every so often what you notice, and what she would also notice, are birds of prey. And every so often they basically just, how they manage to stand in the air, and they just flap their wings really quickly, and then they just drop down. So obviously they're hunting maybe mice, or maybe there are rabbits here as well.
I think on the road, if there is a bit of road where it's not too bumpy in the ride, Alice would probably get her few minutes of craziness, and she would stand up in the back and would just face forward, just hands out, and probably just like a little bit of yelling, just enjoying because that is nothing you can do if you have like the open cars also out there, but that will be just her like enjoying life and really just, and then she would plonk down next to Dottie again.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, he isn't going very fast because there is actually no road.
Yeah.
You can see that there are tire tracks because that's the way to the pier. Because even the pier, I don't want to call it rickety, but it is makeshift because nobody lives here. This is simply just for the dig site.
Yeah.
Because Tel El Amarna is in the middle of nowhere. There is nothing. And basically, as you are approaching the dig site, the first thing you notice without seeing the dig site is that this is a plain. It's rather wide. You can't see the edges of it, but you are moving towards a really tall cliff face.
Yeah.
Let's call it a cliff face because that's really the only thing you see. It's kind of like a crescent, and you're driving towards it. And as you are driving and coming closer, and as let's say the first hour or 70 minutes pass, you can see the beginnings of, if you like, civilization. So there are tents. You can see those. You see another smallish car. And then after about 1.5 hours, you arrive, and he basically gets off the car. He will not be stopped from helping you down. So he basically extends his hand, and
she will let him do that just because he definitely seems old school.
Yeah, and then he vaults onto, and he really vaults onto it. I mean, he may be 45, but he looks rather wiry. He also has the bearing of a soldier, which would gel with somebody who's definitely served in the First World War. He would have been the right age then. And he vaults onto the back of the truck, and he basically takes your suitcases and puts them on the edge. Then he jumps off again, and then he takes them and he carries them. And if you try to wrest them off him, you would have to get physical.
No, we will just.
Yeah. So he basically then carries everything. He says, well, this is, as you can see, it's only tents. We're not building any permanent structures because obviously once the dig is over, which will probably be a couple of years, maybe a whole decade from now, we will just cover everything up again, and then we will leave no trace. So I'm afraid it's the convenience is maybe not. It's not a hotel, but you knew that before you came, so I still hope that the next 4 days will not be too trying for you ladies.
It will be definitely interesting, and we are totally fine. It's just nice that we don't have to sleep outside in the sands in the open. That's the only thing where I would be like, I read about scorpions and things like that. Not sure that's good.
Oh yes, there are scorpions. Very, very well observed. There are scorpions, and yes, I was going to warn you of them. So usually they don't do anything unless you surprise them. So, but the main thing is when you do go to bed, to just basically ensure that you lift the
blanket.
The blanket and the pillow, and he basically then he's holding onto your suitcase. So he basically motions with his whole hand. The tent over there, that's yours.
Lovely.
So I'm just going to take you there, and you can basically freshen up, and then lunch will be served because we do lunch. Lunch will be served in about an hour.
Perfect.
So
that gives us enough time.
If you would like to join us, we would be very happy to have you. But if you would prefer to eat on your own in your tent, that's no problem either.
If you would like to have us there, we would definitely love to join.
Of course we would.
Perfect.
And I mean, I will be quite honest. You have been a great benefactress. I saw the check that you wrote, and I'm very, very grateful.
You are doing really important things here, and just to be egoistical, I love to learn every day more about this country and about the history and everything there. And you are participating quite a lot on that, and we are thankful that you give us the chance to stay here and look over your shoulder for a little while.
Well, like I said, I mean, we have arranged a couple of things that we are going to show you. And then, of course, you feel free and just explore on your own. We will also provide you with a map. And I've also taken the liberty of mapping a couple of areas where I think it would be better not to go on your own because you might get lost. Because I know that this place can be quite deceiving. See that mountain range over there?
Yep.
and he points towards the crescent. You know, it doesn't look that far, but I can tell you it would take you 3 days on foot to get there. Distances, judging distances, and you would
Yeah.
also have guessed that it's a lot closer. He says judging distances here is something that you really need to learn how to do. So if you decide to go exploring, please let us know where you're going. We're
Yes.
not going to check up on you, but just so that we know.
And also you can give us then tips and tricks and hints, or tell us like, don't be crazy, it will take you 3 days to walk there.
Yes, I mean we will go there because it's really worth a visit. It's a 5-hour drive, but it's really worth a visit because that's where some of the tombs are. They are there is a you can't see it from here, but there's a wadi, and basically if you go in there and then you climb up, and we can make this happen for you, then you can see some of the tombs that are in the cliff face.
That sounds really interesting. We will also try not to steal too much of your time, clearly. So.
Oh, we have been waiting for you. We have been expecting you, and I mean we had well advanced notice, so that's why we have. And I mean I understand that you're interested in drawing.
Yes, and maybe also taking 1 or 2 pictures if I'm allowed to. As I said, we will
Of course, that is
stay
not a problem.
in line with what regulations and what you have for sure.
Well, as long as you don't take any physical items, even stones,
No.
From the site, everything will be fine. But Linda, am I right in assuming that her name's Linda Savage? Because I don't.
It's
have
Linda
that
Savage,
down.
yeah. And her
she's
husband
the
Thomas.
person who. Yeah, she's the person who does the drawings and stuff. Linda has got a couple of really lovely artifacts that she's going to draw, and she's waited for you so that you can see the process, because it was her understanding that this was something you might find interesting.
I do.
If it's not, then you can just tell her.
No,
just go ahead.
it's really interesting. Her drawings are amazing. I know I can draw, but I am definitely far behind what she can do. And maybe I will get 1 or 2 tips from John, the photographer.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah, he was telling me that that you dabble.
Yes,
so, yeah.
It was quite interesting. He already told me a few things back in when we met the first time, but it will be interesting to try out my camera and see how the hassle is with all this light, because I slowly understand why, because it's quite bright.
Yes, it is very bright. And then basically you reach your tent, and he opens the flap for you, and he carries the but he doesn't really go inside. He just basically places the suitcases inside, and then he withdraws immediately, and he says, well, in about an hour, and he points over his shoulder, that's the mess tent, that's where we all congregate at 1:15 sharp.
Then we will see you back there. Thank you so much.
I'm looking forward to seeing you. Have a lovely time until then.
Alice would close then like the flap behind him, that we are at least a little bit secured and a little bit less sun. And Alice would first of all shake out her blanket and her just pillow, just to double check.
Make a luck roll.
Oh god. Oh, that's a 19.
No scorpions.
Then and then she would refresh. So I'm not even sure she would change clothing, probably not, but she would clearly wash her face, just brush through her hair a little bit and clean up a little. And also,
yeah, and I mean Dottie does the same. I mean, she basically, because you are now caked in this mixture of sweat and dust, so and as you basically then remove the face from the towel, you can actually see that the towel has gotten quite dirty. And you also feel it because your skin feels a lot gritty.
Yeah.
And then Dottie says, "Oh, look!" And there's a bottle, and it's basically, it used to be wine. It used to be a wine bottle, and it's stoppered, and on it is a label saying iced tea. And she opens the stopper and she smells. Yeah, it's tea.
Should we have a sip? It would be nice.
Absolutely.
For a change.
And she pours tea, and this time it's again Arabic tea but instead of the sugar, what they've put in is actually a little bit of lemon.
Nice. In the heat, that must be really nice.
Yeah. And it tastes really lovely. It tastes really lovely. And then Dottie is kind of like sitting down a little bit, and well, I'm really looking forward to this.
I am really curious what we can see. And
yeah, me too.
I will definitely go out and see a little bit of the drawing that
Linda.
Linda is doing. So I'm not sure if that would be interesting for you, but there's a lot of other things.
Well, I mean, we can find out what there is, because I mean, I would really like to take that trip if you're up for it, to those
For sure.
graves up there.
Yes. Definitely. Everything that I
And-
can grab and not grab, we are not allowed to touch or take with us, but everything that we can visit, see, and learn, I'm all in.
And then, of course, the actual dig. So you notice Dottie is super excited. Are you excited?
Yes, I think Alice, even though me as a player are not that, I'm just too tired to have that much of energy, but I'm quite sure Alice would be a little bit more like, let's get into this. And she's not nervous excited, she's just generally happy about Broad Horizon.
So maybe I should have brought in that little scorpion to make you less tired.
No, that still would not change. That still would not change. But yeah, Alice is really excited, and I think compared to the last days, she's quite relaxed in herself. So she's not as tense and not as much in her head as she has been, especially before we went on the trip. So the trip is definitely doing quite well for her.
So you basically then, I don't know, 1:10, you make it to the mess tent, and everyone's there, and everyone is happy to see you. They all shake your hands, they welcome you, and it's a genuine welcome. You know, they're really happy to, because probably also, while everyone wants to see the artifacts, the people who managed to unearth them and bring them to the public, unless they are Howard Carter and unless it's Amun, are unsung heroes. Nobody knows them, you know. It's different today in the 21st century. We know about Schliemann, we know Flinders Petrie, and some of them were, I mean, Schliemann himself was a very good, kind of like very good in the marketing department. But these people, the academics, not the hacks, are not known. So people don't know them outside of their circles. And if somebody takes an interest even in the, shall I say, more menial work that is involved, that's very rare. And they are super happy to see you. And basically, I mean, food is simple. It's like, you know, soup and bread and potatoes.
I think,
you know, lots of pulses. But
we did not expect more. I think Dottie as well. It's just like, get some nourishment. You need your strength. You need to survive out here, but it needs to be. I think everything here will be probably just practical, because that's the way to go. So,
and but what you do notice is that everybody's constantly drinking. Sorry, I mean, they're drinking water or tea, you know, and it's all cold.
They are all drunk. That's why this
they're
is working
all drunk.
so
they're
well.
all drunk. Yes, this is why it's working so well.
Heat and wine or beer, that is a good combination.
Absolutely. And they also show you around the camp afterwards. So basically, there's the latrines. This is where the washing, where you wash yourselves and that kind of thing. And then they show you the work tents. So there is one where they have artifacts, and you know, like where they have those really tiny brushes where they basically start to brush things. And then there is like the photo shop, as it were, literally. So he basically does his own development. And he's all of the chemicals, blah blah blah. And then there is Linda has kind of like a space that is kind of cut off from everyone else, and it's surrounded by tarpaulin on all four sides. She basically opens it and then walks in. The reason being, she uses also sometimes watercolor, and if the dust gets onto it, so she's kind of, it's not a dust-free environment, but it's as close as she can get. And then they say, and then they say, well, and over there is the actual dig site. So if you're a game, we could just take the small car and I could show you.
I think the dig site to start with would be interesting, and she would look over to Dottie, and I'm quite sure Dottie would be like,
Dottie is kind of like, you know, bouncing up and down on the balls of her feet.
Then let's,
as it were,
start with exactly that.
And you basically drive there, and And then it's really just somebody cut a trench
Yeah.
into the ground, and then they basically just went in and then they started digging. You know, like how they have those uh words.
German?
Ja, ich weiß es.
Or describe?
Yeah, exactly. A string.
String!
So basically, where they have those like square stringy things.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, so that they can. It's always. Let's just say it's 50 centimeters by 50
It's
centimeters.
basically
Where they have like these
markers
little
that they, because
Indeed.
they can then
Yeah.
also document where it
Yeah.
was found,
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah. And basically, and you can see that they have brought these like it's almost like tiny pillows that they kneel on because it's on the ground. And then they just basically start with their little brushes, and and then they've got sieves and they sieve stuff, and they explain to you that they are excavating a part of Akhenaten's palace. Because this was a whole city that he built out of nowhere, and then they explain to you that this is where the royal family lived, and this is where the ministers and the higher ups lived, and over there is where the poor people lived. Because he just basically brought his whole court. But then, of course, you also need the people to provide for that court, the people who provide the food and so on and so forth, the people who provide the work, the people who do the labor. And then, of course, there is the Aton's big temple. But then, as Linda had told you already as well, because she had this little tutu figure of the god of sleep, that this whole idea of Aton being the new god was really just doctrine, state doctrine, and that everybody else was probably still believing in their own things, in their old gods, but they wouldn't do it openly. So they had those little figurines, and the god Tutu, the god of sleep, is one of them that she found here, and he is a very rare god to be depicted. He was very rarely found, and so that's why they were super excited to find a little figurine of his. And so basically, and then you also. You're told that towards not even halfway between the dig site and the or maybe 2 hours on foot, actually, they found something that they still are puzzling about what this is. It's like, and this is now Linda's husband. Is it Thomas?
Yeah.
And Thomas is kind of like, I mean, this is his thing. So Frampton does other things, so this is really his thing. So this is one thing. I mean, I will take you there tomorrow if you're interested, and maybe you will have kind of like a brainstorm and can tell us what this is, because we have not been able to figure it out. It's like an overground maze. It's like a maze. It's man-made, but nobody really knows what this is about or what this is for, and it's the only one in Egypt. It is as old as Tel El Amarna or Akhenaten itself. We know that much. Sorry, not Akhenaten, Tel El Amarna itself, but we have no idea why they built it or what it was for, because there is no mention of mazes in extant literature. The labyrinth itself is, by its very name, a Greek invention, and we have no idea why this was built here. It's a mystery, but we all know it's pre-Hellenistic. It is definitely from the time of Akhenaten. But maybe when you see it, you will be able to tell us what it is.
We never know, but I would be really curious to have a look at it tomorrow. And Alice for sure would ask if she could help in the dig site there in like a little bit of, or just standing.
Yeah.
She would be, and I honestly think Dottie would enjoy that as well.
Yeah.
They would be extra careful. I think both of them would be really like, we will not destroy anything. We will be really careful.
And when you definitely express this interest, he sits down with you and he basically explains to you a lot of details as well, and it's like he's treating you like the students that they would have on the dig, to really explain to you what is important, what to look for, also the technique to use, because he says, sometimes and I remember my first dig It wasn't here, it was somewhere upstream. You sometimes don't know what you're looking at, and you may throw stuff out that is actually quite valuable because it looks only like stone. So over time you get a feeling for it, but the first couple of weeks that students dig with us, they basically sieve it,
And everything.
and then we come and look.
Yeah.
So if I do the same with you, please don't be offended.
Don't be. We will try to make a pre, like, we think this is good, this is not, and then you can give us like a thumbs up or thumbs down.
And the thing is, Dottie gets into this completely.
I think Alice as well. This is really
Yeah.
something that both of them.
Yeah. And the two of you sieve away, as it were, until they actually have to drag you away because it's the sun is setting. He says, now we need to cover everything with tarpaulin because at night. And then he stops and then he says, oh, you will see. I'm not going to tell you. And then they basically cover everything with tarpaulin.
We would probably even help.
Yeah, no. They're asking you to help because the more, the easier it is.
Exactly.
And then they basically get you on the little car again, and you drive back. And then night begins to fall, and it falls really quickly, and you have your evening meal. And then what you realize is, let's do it this way. Please make a listen roll. And you get an advantage die.
Okay, listen. Thank goodness for the advantage die, because if not, it would have been an 89, and this way it's a 19, which is a hard success.
Okay. Now, Dottie notices it first, and she inadvertently takes your hand, and you hear it too. It sounds as if there were 1,000 voices sighing in absolute and utter despair. And everyone falls silent and looks at you and says, yes, you heard right. The Arabic name of this place is Sahra Altanahudati, which means desert of sighs.
How?
It's the wind.
But it must go through something that makes this sound.
You know, and you do know this because you went to Abu Simbel, that there is a phenomenon which has ceased to exist since they built the Aswan dam, and they had to move the whole site a little bit, that it sounded like the statues were sighing, and it was something to do with the wind that they kind of like caught, and it was something that was deliberately done so that the wind gets somehow caught in the structure, and it sounds like they were sighing. And they say, well, we don't know what it is, but it does sound like thousands of people sighing in desperation.
It sounds kind of creepy.
It does. You get used to it. I remember the first time I heard it, people were warning me against it, but I didn't really believe it until I heard it, and it made my heart stop. And that's Frampton talking. I mean, he's like 45, and he said, it is like that. But we've been talking to the fellas that live here, around here, basically, and they say it's been there since time immemorial. That's why it's called the Desert of Sighs. Nobody really knows how the phenomenon works, and it only occurs at night. Even during the day when there is wind, it doesn't sound like this. It only happens at night.
Alice's curiosity is like, she's going through what could it be? Like, are there stones somewhere spread out? That might be, but then it would be during daytime as well. And she's like, just going through options. She would not say anything, but I'm quite sure Dottie for sure knows that her gears are ticking.
Yeah, and then basically, people are talking and, you're having a really lovely evening meal. But you also realize that people go to bed quite early because they have to rise quite early because they have to make the most of the sunlight that they have.
Also, in the morning, it's not as hot, so it's easier to work out there.
It's not as hot, yes. And you two also realize that you are quite tired.
Yeah. I think this is not a party travel, so it's quite honestly going to bed early and getting up early.
So the two of you go to bed. You shake out the...
We do the shaking just to be sure and safe and sound.
No, little Chris's. You go to bed.
I think Alice would still sit down for like 5 to 10 minutes and write a little bit in her travel guide, and I could, or travel diary kind of thing, and I could imagine Dottie maybe doing...
Dottie's actually lying down on her stomach and writing, so she basically is propping up her chest on a pillow and basically just writing like this, like you would imagine young Dottie might have read at night.
Alice is sitting cross-legged on her bed and having the notebook on her knee, basically writing like that, and
then at some point Dottie says, At some point one day I will thank you for taking me on this trip. I still don't know how, but you don't know what you're doing. It's the best time of my life.
Well, same here. I am very thankful that you are with me on this trip. It would have been mighty boring to do this all on my own.
She gives you a genuine smile, and then she says, and tomorrow we're gonna investigate that labyrinth.
Yeah, and we will tell them what it is, because it must be obvious. We will figure that out.
We are PIs, aren't we?
Yes.
We can find out everything.
Exactly. We can find out everything. And Alice will put the notebook aside, just plonk herself down, will pull the blanket up. Is the sound still ongoing, or is it just... The only thing, she will be lying probably looking at the tent, like the roof of the tent, and she will be... I'm not sure I can get used to that sound out there. Because my brain can't stop thinking about options, how this is created.
And again, your brain.
I'm curious. This must have an explanation, and I hope a natural explanation.
Or do you mean a supernatural one would be an alternative?
Yeah, maybe, because it's just at nighttime. So obviously it would be idea that some of the stones, if wind goes through, but then it would be during daytime as well.
Who knows? What was the name of the second daughter?
No, they are not here. We are not going down that road.
Well, Astarte is from this place.
They are...
Well, not this place, but generally speaking.
They're probably all still in New York, just having a good time there.
Of course.
Yeah. And Alice will pull out the blanket.
And then she goes to sleep.
Alice will try to go to sleep as well.
Make a con check.
Barely a success. Just not made it.
It does take a little bit of getting used to, but you do fall asleep, and you do sleep well enough that next day you're fine.
Good.
And the next day, then basically, young Thomas puts you on the car and he drives you there. Basically, you have breakfast and all of that, but we will skip that. And you walk around, and the maze itself, I mean, it's not a labyrinth per se, because the idea of a labyrinth is you go in, and no matter which way, at the end of the day, you just keep going, and it'll lead you all... There is only one way, really, and it takes you to the center.
Yeah.
This is different in that it doesn't have a circumference. Like, it's not like it's got a wall
Mm-hmm.
of any shape or form, if it's round or spherical or rectangular or anything. It doesn't seem to have this. It's more like stelae that are standing up, but also walls. So you can now give me, you have architecture or something like that. We figured this out, or history or art or something like that.
I have, let me see. Archaeology I have as well, but let me see. Fast talk, no. I have history.
Do you not have art or something? Craft?
I have art and craft, yeah. All around painting and drawing.
And how much do you have in that? Is that better than your history?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Okay, all right, because it's not so much history, would be more like trying to find out if you have heard about something in history that
Yeah,
has
which
something to do
I
with
would.
this. To me, this is more like your ability to kind of standing within this structure and trying to imagine what it must look like
Yeah, then.
when you look at it from the top. So I
Yeah.
would say please make an art roll, arts and crafts, but you get an advantage. You get a bonus die for this, please.
Okay, we will do that. The walls, are they higher than a person, so you can't look over, or are they lower?
That's a good point. They are probably, how tall are you? You're 170 something, right?
I think around 173, 74, I would guess. So quite
So
tall.
they are a little bit taller than you are. You would say probably 192, max 2 meters.
Okay, so but the general.
So if this was a building and had a roof, then it was kind of like a little bit low.
Yeah, but at least it gives definitely the idea of a maze that you can't see.
Yeah, when Dottie's on the other side of one of those walls, you can't see her.
Okay. Ooh. I did not need the extra die. It's an.
But do it because you might get a 0-1.
No. My initial set was an 11, and the additional die is a 60. So, but 11 is good. That means I have a 1, 2, 3 critical success.
Okay, so ticket. And you have a feeling that whatever this is was never a building, because A, it's too large, and B, you wouldn't build like this unless, and now you can make a history check for me, or archaeology, whichever is the better. And now I have
history is a tiny bit better.
Okay, now I have to check one thing, because I'm not sure from a timeline if this was already something people knew about.
But I am far off. I rolled a 75, so never ever. Whatever it is, I have no idea.
You have no idea. Okay, then I don't need to check. Okay, good.
I don't know if Dottie probably, just based on her background, probably not.
No. She did get some points in archaeology Egypt, but history and that kind of thing isn't really, Okay. You wouldn't build like this. So this is really strange. So you can't imagine why anybody would build something like this, because when you think of because you walk around and you spend, I would say, the better part of 2 hours walking around, and it is huge. It's really large. But it is also kind of nondescript. It's definitely man-made. You can
no
tell.
signs, drawings, nothing.
No, but when you basically touch it, you realize it's also not. It's not made from bricks, but it's hewn from stone. So these are stelae and walls that have been hewn from, it seems to be because back then people didn't really know what Stonehenge was. It kind of it's as nonsensical as Stonehenge. Why would somebody put up these really large things? People have been speculating what Stonehenge was for. I think now we believe it's a calendar kind of thing, but who knows? It's like this. Why would you do this? So for a calendar or something, or if this is a temple, then it's a weird temple. You can't imagine that anybody would be able to put a roof structure on this. Also, it doesn't have any circumference walls. So,
Hmm.
and then Thomas says, "So, any ideas?" Because honestly, I don't know. I mean, we've been speculating. People have been speculating, but we simply don't know. But do you have any ideas?
Kids Enjoyment Park. They made a lot of money with it.
Well, I have to say that this is the first time I've heard that theory, but I'll note it down because that's an interesting one.
I'm not sure they were like that in Egyptian time to set something up just for entertainment, like whoever gets in gets out is getting something just for the joy of it. Because this is nothing that had a roof on top, I think.
No, people agree on that. You're right. You're absolutely spot on.
But maybe there were a little bit of plants or something just to make it a little bit more decorative. And as far as I know, they used colors and paints here and there, but they are faded by now, so we don't know what has been there. Maybe it looked differently in color.
I really like your thinking because this is something that is true. Most people that look at Greek statues always think that the statues are white marble. Yes, they are, but they were all painted, and we have found some pigmentation on these that made them look really garish, so they were really painted in very bright colors. And well, you can ask my wife, she once did kind of like a sketch of an Athena, the way she would have looked like, and most people find it terrible because it's so garish, and it is.
They did
But
not have the options to change the pigments and color in the fine way that we have nowadays.
And also what people seem to forget, because unless you've seen one of those statues in situ, is they were in temples.
Mm-hmm.
And it was always dark in there because the temples were huge and you couldn't really light them up. So they had to have very strong colors to be able to see them, in the semi-darkness. So are you sure that you're not interested in taking up archaeology because you've got a brilliant mind? And then he says, but like you said, since this has been so exposed to the elements for the last 4,000 years, any paint residue would have been lost. And so we really don't know, but this is a good guess that maybe this was painted at some point. It could be that, for all we know, this could have been an outside school.
Maybe.
You go in and you read stories as you go along, and then you come out the other end. So, but I find it fascinating, and sometimes I just come here and sit here and kind of like wait for inspiration. It hasn't struck me yet, but maybe one day.
It's a quite interesting structure. It looks a bit like, I don't know. Yeah, Stonehenge was the initial idea I kind of got from it, because it looks kind of randomly placed, but I'm sure
I agree.
It's not nature put it there. It's mankind put it there. So they had a reason for it.
Yeah, I agree. And so basically you spend your time there, but then you have to go back because also lunch and stuff. And you do realize that you do get hungry because you're outside all the time. And then basically in the afternoon, dear Linda would be happy to show you some of her drawings.
I will definitely join her.
And now you can make a spot hidden as you're sitting next to her and watching her draw.
Okay. Oh god, no. No.
Okay.
No. 92 is definitely not good enough for that. My spot hidden is so good, but not that good.
And she shows you how she does it. She basically has tracing paper. And I'm making this up. I don't even know if this is a technique. I'm just making this up. But basically how she does it is she draws the object in various layers, and she just layers the paper on top so that she can then basically open it up like this.
That's a valid thing.
And this allows me, if I feel that something is off, I can just take off the page rather than having to redraw the whole thing. And remember the statue of Tutu that I showed you? Drawing this actually took me the better part of 2 days, but I'm very happy with the result. But of course I don't always have as much time, so this is where I do my sketches. So these are the quick sketches that we use basically, so that we have like a first catalog item for the item that we have found, and then we make a decision which ones we want to document more, because obviously this is taking a lot of time. But I can get into details that we with the photographs cannot get into, because photographs simply are not as detailed. And of course back then, I mean,
It's more grainy. It was
yeah,
not. It's more for a rough idea.
And so basically you spend I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 hours watching her, unless you get really bored.
I think for the rest of the day she would stick around, because she would pull out her sketchbook as well, and she would at least give it a go, just to see how it is to sketch like that, and just to just join in.
And she says, would you like some of my tracing paper? Then you can try the technique.
That would be something as well. I like that idea. I never had the idea to do it that detailed, but it makes sense.
And so the two of you sit down, and she's watching you, but she doesn't say anything. So she's somebody who doesn't interfere, but she's watching you.
Let me roll and see how well I'm not doing well.
She looks at it and she says, would you like some advice? I don't mean to intrude.
Yeah, sure, please give me, if you're willing to share.
Of course. And then she says, and then she basically says, first of all, I can see that you are not only talented, but you have technique. I can tell. So that's going to make this really easy. And so she's explaining a couple of things to you, and you keep trying, and after about another hour or so,
artist practice. So
yeah,
she will for sure already warn Linda that she will come by for a few more days here and there, just to at least practice and have a look more, because this is quite entertaining.
I'd love that. I was afraid that you might find this boring, so I was even debating with Peter if we should even show you anything that I do, because most people find it really boring, but
I love it, and honestly, I will bug Peter probably as well, because I will bug John for sure, if I can, because I also have my camera with me, and I'm really curious to maybe see if I can grab 1 or 2 snippets here and there, although I think I need to be up quite early in the morning, because that seems to be the light where it's still feasible to do a picture before full sunlight hits.
And basically then she says, well, I think that John had you penciled in if you were interested for tomorrow anyway. Yes. So I'm pretty sure he'll talk to you over dinner about it.
Yeah, I will
and sure
ask
enough,
him.
Dinner comes around, and John basically says, well, as we were talking about photographs, and I realized that you're very interested, I thought that we might be able to do it tomorrow morning. As you pointed out, the less sun, the better.
Yep.
So I start quite early, so I have my breakfast at 5. If that's not too early for you, I could come by your tent and stand outside and just wake you.
Yeah, I will be up at 5. No problems. Then we can grab something and go out. I would love that.
In the meantime, night has fallen and the sighing has started again.
I'm quite sure Alice's neck hair is standing up, just like.
Yeah, it is not nice. And the two of you basically then at some point go to bed as everybody else retires. And Dottie today writes stuff in her journal, and then she goes to bed quite quickly because she is knackered. And then she goes to sleep, but she doesn't even care if you've still got the light on, because she just closes her eyes and she's. You've also never noticed that she snores.
Well, it's probably the dry air and the nose is stuffy
probably.
Or whatever. But Alice will go to bed quite quickly as well. I'm quite sure she has like a travel alarm clock thing, because during that time they already had that for sure.
You do.
So she would have warned Dottie that she will get up quite early, and Dottie is free to join if she wants to, although I'm not sure if she would, because I think camera and photography is definitely something she has not dabbled too much in. But Alice would give her if you want to join, if not, feel free to sleep in a little longer.
She basically says, let's see how I feel at 5 o'clock.
Okay.
And then the the alarm, and so basically you go to sleep. The alarm rings at
Yeah.
5.
Alice will be quick to turn it off
Mhm,
and
mhm.
just whisper probably to Dottie, "Do you want to get up with me or stay in bed?"
I think I may turn over and sleep some more. Can you set the clock for 7?
No problem. Alice will set the clock for 7, push it over towards Dottie. She will probably like just lay her hand on the blanket on her foot, like, "Then have a nice sleep. I will tiptoe out." And Alice will
Enjoy.
get quite quick. She prepared everything, that everything is
Mhm.
easy to grab, so she would just change clothing and grab her camera equipment and then would step outside the tent.
Mhm. And basically, he has prepared breakfast for the two of you, and then he puts you, and then he says, since I'm going to take pictures of the dig today, I've got the car because I have to move all of the equipment. The other ones will follow. And then he basically moves
Mm-hmm.
everything is in the car already. So the two of you get in the car, you drive to the dig.
Yeah,
Then he asks you to help him to remove the tarpaulin,
sure.
and then you see that he had described that his work was physical, but his work is super physical because he's building like gantries made out of planks, and then he basically lies on top of them, photographing down into the dig. And that is, well, it is very physical. The work that
Mm-hmm.
he does is super physical. Um, and And he says, the good thing is that I don't need any flash, because here I would not be able to place because since he's
Yeah,
photographing down, it
no
would be
way.
really difficult to get the flash in there. And then he does plate after plate and different angles, and he also has like measuring rods that have like a scale on
Mm-hmm.
them, and he places them next to fine so that it's easy to see, okay, so
Yeah.
this is this long and blah blah. And he says, well, and I usually do this before they come from to do the new dig, because then I'm done, and then I can go back and then I work on the plates, and then you know and then he says, but maybe we can take a look at your equipment, and you can take a couple of pictures if you like.
I think while he's doing that, Alice is already out with the
Mhm,
camera, and she would also make a few pictures of him working, him building
mhm,
that like scaffolding kind of thing, and also like snapping a picture of him lying up there. But she would also try in between to at least more detailed shots. Although at the moment she's still on ground level, so it will be
mhm.
hard for her. And she would eye the like the thing he built. Would she feel safe enough to climb up there to try to do a picture herself from up there?
Um,
Just knowing that
okay,
climbing is not her strong suit.
then I would say it's up to you really. You could do a psychology roll and basically make a decision for yourself if you believe you're fit enough. Um, I would not be able to tell you how you feel about this. I mean, it is made of wood, and the wood looks sturdy enough. But
And
then
he and
again,
he is around, so I think she would give it a go. She would
mhm,
try to climb up there, and she would give it a go with her own camera equipment, clearly
mhm.
not touching his to break it.
He says, "Would you like me to hold on to the camera and then hand it up to you?"
That would be lovely.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. She will carefully
And
hand over the camera to him.
yeah, and he handles it really carefully, and then he's kind of like standing a little bit behind you, but far enough away so he's not touching you, but just in case you fall. Yeah, and you can make a dexterity check.
Can I do? Oh God! Whatever I roll, it's very good because it's a 2. I would have rolled a
Oh,
climb check because
oh,
climbing
if
is
if
a
if you if
stat,
you oh if climbing is a stat, you can use that. Yes, yeah.
and it's
But
a
a two would be
it's a
would be
critical success.
yeah, okay. So it's
I'm
probably
surprised myself how well I get up there.
well, I think maybe it's also because you're so excited and you really want this, so it's kind of like a psychological drive that's
Yeah.
that's spurring you on, and you make it up there, and you take pictures, um, and again, seeing it being done is different from actually doing it yourself. And you notice, I mean, your camera is kind of light, his is so heavy. So the fact that he has to hold it like this and still has to hold it steady that is physical. Now you also kind of realize it's difficult to keep doing this for more than 2 hours or 3
Oh
hours
god,
max at a
yes.
time, because it is so exhausting.
Especially
And the
if the
sun,
sun is
and
now
it's
out and
hot.
it's getting warmer and the
Yeah.
sun is burning. Yeah, I can imagine that.
And so after about 3 hours, you pack your stuff.
Yeah.
He drives himself and yourself back. And then and you see Dottie already sitting there and talking to Linda. And then he looks at you and he says, "You know what? Why don't you and your friend stand in front of your tent and I take a picture of the two of you?"
Oh, that would be lovely.
And
She would
he
motion
said,
to Dottie and would be like, let's take a remembrance picture of being here.
and Dottie stands next to you, and you know that she's a very self-conscious person. So she's like, "Do you think that this is necessary? Do I look okay?"
You look perfect.
And she basically smoothing her clothing, and she's like,
Alice
"Maybe I'm."
will wrap one of the arms around her and be just like very, and would just smile. That's the only thing you need to do. You're happy here. That just think about where we are.
And she smiles, and it's a genuine early Dottie smile. And he takes a picture of you, and then he says, "No one ever, regardless of how little talent they have, could destroy this picture with this subject." And he walks away, and Dottie looks at you, just like, "Was that a compliment?"
That was such a charmer.
And she's a bit confused. Yeah, and then lunch comes around. You
Mm-hmm.
can make another spot hidden for me, please, as you're sitting at the table.
Oh,
Okay. And then, in the afternoon, there is more stuff that you do, and then you go to bed, and the desert is sighing to you again. You go to sleep after you've kept your journal. And then you give me a listen roll, please.
oh god. Okay. Listen. Gosh darn it, that's a good one.
Oh God, I
That's a
succeeded.
hard success.
Okay, don't forget to tick it.
It's already ticked.
You hear voices from the outside.
Is it still evening or nighttime?
It's night, and you also hear the sighing of the desert. And you can tell by first of all the timbre, it's men talking, and you have a feeling that there's a sense of urgency behind their talking.
Do I get at least if they're speaking in English or something
Yes,
else?
yes,
Okay.
yes. There is nothing sinister, but you have a feeling that they're trying not to be too loud so as not to wake other people. Do you want to listen more carefully what they're saying?
Alice would for sure listen more carefully to what she can hear.
Okay. What was your success again? It was a hard success,
It's
wasn't it?
hard success, yeah.
Okay. You can identify two voices. You can identify the voice of Peter, and you can identify the voice of Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
And you can hear Thomas say, I don't know. I woke up and she wasn't there. I have no idea where she is. I looked everywhere. And then Peter is like, I told you need to tell her to stop. Have you spoken to her about it? I hope she didn't bring any. Tell me she didn't bring any. As far as I don't know, but you know how she gets. Maybe. We have to find her. And Peter says, yes, but it's the middle of the night. We don't even have enough light. How are we going to find her? If she walked into the desert, there is no way we're going to find her. And Peter...
Could Alice just... I think this would be the point where Alice would peek out of the tent and just whisper like, I can help searching for tracks if she left here.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to wake you.
You did not.
You don't need to make a psychology roll. Where was I?
I do not need to make a psychology roll because I'm quite... I shocked them.
No.
Surprised them?
No, you see that Thomas is very upset.
Okay.
And not at you.
No, we don't have many she's her, so I am quite sure who she is. So
yeah, it's his
Linda.
wife Linda that's missing. Yeah, and Peter's like, I'm sorry we woke you up.
I can read tracks.
There is no reason for me to apologize because we didn't do anything wrong.
Oh,
Linda is gone.
Yeah, I grabbed that much. Just give me a second. I'll be there in a minute. Alice would carefully draw in again. She would just... Well, she's in her... She would just jump into some clothing that she could grab without waking up Dottie.
Can you make another D100 roll and tell me the result, please?
58.
Okay, Dottie heard you. Dottie wakes up. She's like, what is it?
Linda is missing.
She sits up and she's like, but it's the middle of the night.
I overheard Peter and Thomas. I offered to help.
And you thought you could sneak out and leave me here? Fat chance, darling, fat chance. And she gets up and she gets
so
dressed.
Peaceful. Alice would already get up. Alice would already step outside, but she would like
hold the flap for Dottie to follow you. Yeah.
And we would have grabbed. I'm quite sure we would have flashlights. Let's circle the camp and see if we can find any way where she left, because she can't just poof out of existence.
Thomas gets John, and John and Thomas pair up, and then Peter pairs. Well, he doesn't pair up with you because there's two of you, so the three of you go together, and you circle the camp. But the problem is really it's like very hard ground, so there aren't. You noticed this before. The only tracks that you ever saw were the tire tracks that went to and from or go to and from the pier because they always drive there. But when you actually step on it, you don't leave tracks.
But we can still have a look if she by accident dropped anything, or I have no idea.
No, so give me a spot hidden.
Let's see. Nope.
100, yes, she went that way.
No, she just plonked out of existence.
Well, if this was Call of Cthulhu, this might be, but we're playing Sims.
Spot hidden is a hard success.
Oh, brilliant. The thing is, you see nothing. So Peter is like, I mean, literally she could have gone anywhere. I mean, she could have gone in any direction from here.
Do you have any idea why she would leave? Oh,
he looks at you and he looks...
Is there a place that she is interested?
Well, there is a problem.
Okay. Can be out honest.
May I ask you not to repeat this to anyone, because if you do, she will lose her job.
What happens here stays here.
He gives you a very weak and very wry smile, and he says, she chases the dragon.
Excuse me, what?
Oh, sorry. I suppose this is a British expression. She's an opium addict.
That is a real bad habit to have.
Yes, and especially in Egypt where it's freely available. And
the car is still there, so she did not drive off,
both
right?
cars are still there. Yeah. And I have the keys. You see, legally and probably morally, she should not be here. But I couldn't. I mean, if this gets out, she will never be employed again.
And here you have the chance to have an eye on her, and I think nevertheless she still loves what she's doing, and she does it really well.
And also Thomas can be with her, because if he's here and she's in Cairo, God knows what she's going to do.
I think she is not hurting anything here. She's doing a valid contribution to the dig site with her work.
Oh, she's one of the best artists I've ever worked with, there is no doubt, but
artists have a weakness for things like that.
he looks at the ground, he says, well, yeah, maybe, but the problem is that she's now missing. And it could well be because she is so far gone that she sometimes suffers hallucinations. I assume that she did bring some, and she may have consumed it.
Addicts are quite sneaky in making sure they can follow what they want to, and they can hide it quite well. Should we at least give it a try with car, maybe just driving in one direction or making like a half circle for like an hour or two? By foot she can't be that far. She was there at least when we all went to bed.
Well, I think I know where she may have gone, and the car won't help us. She has always been very attracted by what we call the labyrinth, although it's not a labyrinth. We can drive near it, but we can't drive into it.
Well, then let's drive near it and see if we can find her.
Okay, so he basically says to the others that you guys are going to drive to the labyrinth and the other ones are going to take the other car and they're going to go the other direction, basically, in case she decided to go to the pier.
Yeah.
If she has a hallucination, she wants to return to Cairo.
Yeah, not that
That's
she
where she would
drowns
go.
or anything. So,
Yeah.
and Alice
So-
would see that we pack in. They would have rope here for sure.
Oh, yes.
She
Why do you want rope? Sorry.
Maze. If we need to go inside to find her, since we can't look over, basically it will be easier to just have a rope to make sure we get out without problems.
He looks at you and he says, so you're Theseus and I'm your Ariadne?
That is the idea.
And he smiles at you and he says, when you see the Minotaur and if it looks like her, please don't slay it.
No, for sure not.
And then the three of you get in the car and you drive to as close to the thing as you can get, and then you get out and you go into the maze.
No, I think from outside, Alice for sure would call out for Linda to see if there's any reaction.
What you notice is that the sighing is omnipresent. At this stage, it's basically turned into a kind of background noise for you.
The question is, I think being on the way, Alice would have been curious nevertheless to see if it's getting louder when we get closer to the maze.
Make a listen roll.
Or if it stays like just same background level noise. No, 95, I have no freaking idea. It's just annoying background noise.
Yeah, it is, and it is really annoying, but what you've also noticed is that when you are outside, it's really getting on your nerves much more so than it did in the tent. And you go to the maze.
Yes.
And so you tie off the rope. Go into the maze. The three of you.
Yep.
And you walk. And suddenly you smell something. It's the faint smell of mustard. Very strange. You haven't smelled this here in Egypt at all. Keep going. suddenly you hear something else on the wind. You hear a noise like explosions. You hear gunfire.
Nearby or further away?
You can't tell because the wind is kind of... And
But it's not like right in front or next.
it seems it's around you. It's all around
Okay.
you. And then you hear something entirely different, and now you have to give me a sanity check. You hear voices. What did you roll?
A 30, so success. Should I roll
Okay,
for Dottie?
please roll a d6 for me.
D6 for 1.
Okay, you lose 1 sanity.
Should I roll for Dottie?
No, Dottie is not... She's fine.
Okay.
You hear the voices of men. And you hear them groan. And you hear just one word that they seem to be saying. And it's the word mother. And you step around the next stelae.
Mm-hmm.
And the environment changes completely. Before you is still an empty space, a plain, but it looks completely different. There is mist that seems to rise from craters that are in front of you. And you see barbed wire fencing. And you look a little closer and you can see people hanging in there. And next to you, Peter Frampton falls to his knees. And you see in front of you is a crater, and you see a hand reach out. And a person dragging themselves out of it. You can now make a history check.
Okay. She would probably put her hand on Peter's shoulder, but with the other hand she would grab for Dottie to make sure she is staying close.
You reach out and you touch Peter's hand. Peter is crying.
Mm-hmm.
You can silently crying, but his body is shaking. You reach for Dottie. Dottie's not there. What is your history roll?
Big fail.
Okay.
Although I suspect some kind of... It definitely looks like war, to be honest, everything that you're describing. And more modern times. So it's not Egypt, because they didn't have barbed wire and things like that. So more like...
So,
but the moment Dottie is not there, she would turn around and look for Dottie.
You see nothing. The stelae are no longer there. You have no idea where you are. You are surrounded by mist that is slowly creeping up from these craters.
Is the rope still there? Because
you're holding onto the rope, but the rope is loose. And you smell this really strange smell. And then Peter grabs your hand and he says, "It's the gas." And the person that was digging themselves out of this crater, you can see that they have, although it's kind of like dark, the darkness is lit by shells. So there is constant fire, there is machine guns, etc. And this person is dragging themselves out of this crater, and you can see that they have been gassed. So essentially, when mustard gas hits, it basically starts eating away at the skin, and then it gets into the lungs, and it starts eating away the lungs, or the tissue in the lungs, I should say. And Peter cowers down. He's basically now in a fetal position, and he's also beginning to essentially shout for his mother. And this is the thing that you hear. Everyone is shouting for their mothers. They're hanging in the barbed wire. So literally, this is the Somme, probably. It's the First World War. And you are standing in the middle of a battlefield.
Yeah. I think Alice would focus on Peter because she suspects because he reacts like he has seen this before or knows something. Because Alice never has been in war. She definitely never experienced that. And she would try to shake Peter and basically yell at him. Maybe give him a nice slap in the face. Just like, we need to get out of here. This is definitely not real. We need to leave this and get back to the maze. Come on.
Okay, make a psychology roll. Or fast talk or anything like it. Whichever is your best shot.
Psychology is my best shot. But not with a 92.
Oh my god.
She would try to drag him.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's just inch by inch. And she would try to get in the direction that they came from.
You drag him. Make a strength check. You're not that weak, actually. You're quite strong.
An 88. I'm not that strong, so I move him maybe like a centimeter, but not much.
Mm-hmm. So you're dragging him. You lose another 3 points of sanity because this is getting too much. You are surrounded by this. This is constantly going on. Now you also smell something else. You smell the smell of decay.
Mm-hmm.
And there is constant shelling. And as you are standing there trying to drag him, out of the darkness steps a person.
From behind me?
No, she's facing you.
Okay.
She's basically coming towards you. It's a woman.
It's not Linda, I hope.
It's not Linda.
Okay.
It's also not Dottie. It's Jane. And it's her face,
Mm-hmm.
but she looks very different. She's wearing a robe, kind of like a tunic. And she comes closer and she looks at Peter.
I think the moment that she recognizes that this is Jane, Alice would freeze. She would still hold on to Peter, but she would yell basically at Jane, "What the hell is this? And where's Dottie?"
This is my home.
Your home is back in England.
Oh, it's this face. You've come to my place. He's called me, and she looks at Peter.
No, he did not. We are looking for a friend that went missing, and now we seem to be lost as well. In a quite horrific place, to be honest.
You're not lost. He is where he has been for the last 15 years. He's never left.
I get that he's stuck in a nightmare about war that he clearly went through. So how do we get out of here? He's seen
You're free.
her.
You can leave anytime.
But I will not leave him. He does not belong here.
He called me.
I highly doubt that. Did you see our friend Linda, by any chance, walking through here? Because she likes
She
to be here.
closes her eyes. Linda is not here. Linda never came here. Linda is somewhere else.
Right. Please tell me that my friend is still out there.
She closes her eyes one more time. Dorothy?
Yes.
She's in my city.
What city? There is no city around here. There's just sand and stone.
She looks over your shoulder and motions with her chin.
I will look in the direction that she is watching.
Behind you, the battlefield has vanished. And you see the lights of a city, which seems to be maybe half a kilometer or a kilometer away from you. And then she says to you, "May I please do what I have been called for?"
Not if you're here to murder him?
No. I'm not here to murder him.
It kind of looks with the scenario you have set up here.
It's not my scenario. This is his life. This is what he sees every night. This is what he sees when he daydreams. This is not me.
Such a brilliant archaeologist, but broken. She would kneel down next to Peter and would just like try to see if she can make him focus at her, look at her. No grabbing the face, like, Peter, this is the past.
Make a psychology
You
roll, or
you need to
whatever
let
you want.
go of it if we want to leave. No. It's far away
Okay,
from possible to get.
He looks at you, and then he looks at the woman, and then he says, "Mom, is that you?" And she basically just spreads out her arms, and he gets up, and he starts walking towards her.
Alice would definitely steps are halfway in between. Look at her again. Could I am still lost on who you are and what is happening here. We still need him out there. There's a lot of work to do.
I don't know who you think I am.
I honestly am. I have no idea who you are.
I
I'm
am
not
the
from
mother
here.
of size.
There for me is the question, is that something connected to the three?
Yeah, she's the middle one.
Alice will really just annoyingly like, not another one of you. Why on earth?
And
What did I do to all of you?
Peter steps around you deftly.
Yeah, she's just like she's not reacting to that. She's just like,
And he walks towards this woman who envelops him in an embrace, and he basically lets go. All of his physical strength seems to drain away. He falls more into this embrace than anything else. And she slowly eases him to the ground, and she sits down with him, and he's lying in her lap. And you have seen this scene before. In a dream. This is the mother of Christ holding her dead son. And she's looking at you like she did from the paintings in that dream.
One sister's enough. I'm not willing to deal with another one.
I have no dealings with you.
I highly doubt that. Why am I here? Why is Dottie in the city? You for sure have dealings with us because your sister has dealings with us, and I still don't know why. Well, I partly do. Could you please let him go and leave?
I can't let him go.
So
He needs me.
he's doomed to be stuck here forever, and
No,
if we ever leave, we'll...
no, be quiet.
That's not my
He
strong
has-
suit. Your sister would tell you that.
I'm not here to argue, I'm here for him. He needs me.
Alice will just throw her hands in the air, turn around and walk towards the city, and she will be mumbling to herself that deities are a stupid thing and why on earth, and we don't deserve that, and this is just insane. And she's turning now to angry Alice again, that is annoyed at everything and hates these three sisters now. Although the one she doesn't know, but she suspects she's just as annoying as the other two. And she will really like the angry stomping walk. That's what Alice is doing at the moment. And she let go of the rope for sure now because it's useless.
You walk away from her.
Yes.
You walk towards the city.
Yes, because I want to find Dottie, because she said Dottie is in the city.
You walk.
Yes.
Takes you about 15 minutes. You get to the city limits, you walk inside. Yes, it looks like a city.
I think the soon I get close enough, she would start yelling for Dottie.
You yell for Dottie.
Yeah.
You realize that this looks a lot like New York City. You've seen some of the houses, but what you also realize is kind of like the makeup of the city is a little bit different than you remember it. So maybe this house used to be on 47th Street. Now it's kind of like next to a house that is on, I don't know, Broadway. Just making this up, by the way. So it's, yes, these are buildings that you remember. You keep yelling. Make a listen roll.
I hate my dice today. Let's try you. I obviously need more of them. Although listen kind of works. That's a hard success in listen.
You hear, so you know New York, you're from New York.
Yep.
There are a couple of things that you hear that you don't hear that you expect. You hear no traffic.
Well,
It's also nighttime.
it's not real.
There are no people, and you hear your voice echoing when you're calling for Dottie.
Does she hear an answer from Dottie?
Not that you can hear.
Then she would change to calling out to... You are not doing a really good picture of the beautiful city we are at. You could improve quite a bit. Come on, you can do better. And she would try to just move around, and she would probably try to keep an eye open for if she can find our home, basically our entrance, our building. Or the cemetery. One of the two options is where she's looking.
The cemetery?
Yeah.
Oh, the one where you met the sister.
Yep.
You turn a corner.
Mm-hmm.
And you look down. And in the gutter, you see someone lying.
Does it look like Dottie?
It doesn't look like Dottie at all. It looks like your boyfriend who was murdered on your 20th birthday in a mugging gone wrong?
She will freeze. She will definitely struggle for a second. I'm also quite sure that it's a high mix of emotions for her at the moment. She was already angry, also in panic, although not showing, because her angry side is like, hey, I'm not fearful, I'm not afraid, yay. And now with that, I'm quite sure 1 or 2 tears will run down her face, but she will take a deep breath. She will just turn around, just not going towards that, turn around and try to take a different corner and focus again on Dottie. And try to move on. Because she in between, she will make a pause and probably talk. And this is all made up. Just stop this nonsense. I just want Dottie. We will leave and do whatever you like. And in between, she's probably muttering to herself that I should have taken some charms with me. Might have been useful. Also, again, the Anubians, maybe they would have been scared. And she would then go back to calling Dottie, and she's trying to get her brain busy on topics she can handle. The logical part. She everything that Dottie says about heart and feeling, she's trying to just like, no, we are focusing on brain, on memories, on topics to focus on. And she will move on.
You move on. Do you want me to be evil?
I honestly await that on the next corner I see exactly the same scene.
Do you want me to be even more evil?
Whatever you fancy. I am open for anything.
Then we shall leave it here.
Oh boy, that is mean.
That is evil.
That is even worse. Oh, my poor girl.
Well, we thank you for listening and watching, and
I
we
hope
say
it's still entertaining.
well, he didn't say it was entertaining.
Well, it's Cthulhu in the end, so no one thinks that it will be a happy unicorn party here. But
no, and I mean, I want to point out that I was told in the beginning Alice is supposed to suffer. I'm trying my best.
You are doing a great job in making her suffer. I can tell you that. I'm just always horrible sorry for Dottie. She's suffering as well because she does not deserve any little bit of badness in this world.
So I hope you enjoyed it.
I definitely enjoyed it.
We had a choice, dear listeners, because this could have been a super chill episode where they're just traveling up the Nile, but I was told, well, we can do some Nile and then we can do some other stuff, and now we're doing the other stuff. And I know that my player hates me, but hey.
I don't hate. I play Cthulhu. I know that it's, as I said, it's not a happy unicorn right here, so all is well.
All is well. Everybody's still alive, and then we will see you again in, I think, in 4 weeks. Actually,
because in 2 weeks I can't.
Yeah. And then, until then, have a lovely rest of the week whenever you're listening, watching this, and we hope you stay with us and are looking forward to meeting you again in the next installment of Alice in Egypt.
Yep. Let's see what happens.
We'll talk to you then. Yeah.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.